Okay. There's no mistake when that happens, isn't it? Like, we just know it's not subtle, so, all right, good deal. Chair, it's, your prerogative to call us to order. Once you do so, I'll go ahead and take roll.
Call the meeting, the committee meeting for complaint review process to order.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, roll call. Taylor Van Dever,
Here.
Will Haston,
Here.
Nelson Pratt. Nelson Pratt, are you there? You can go and chime in. I see you there, but we don't hear you. Can you hear us, Nelson? No, I don't think so. Stand by. Let's just try it right quick. Nelson, can you hear us? He's the silent partner in all of this. Just for you guys, we'll have to, everything will be roll call vote if there's any actionable items. I don't necessarily foresee there being any action items, but if it pops up, we'll do a roll call vote. Perfect. Mr. Pratt, can you hear us? He was invited as a participant, right?
Man, a few words.
Okay. Mr. Pratt, can you hear us? He's looking at his text. Mr. Pratt, can you hear us?
He just wrote you back.
Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
No.
He cannot hear us. Okay.
Yeah, I texted him.
Yeah, every time I turn Teams on, the speaker's coming from a different place. So you gotta just find your source.
Right.
That's always the biggest frustration.
Molly's gonna step out and see something and make sure that you can get her.
Check one. Nelson, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Just speaker source.
Can't get sound to work. I'll try to dial it.
Yeah, is there a dial number?
There is.
Headphones. Just Bluetooth. Yeah, I think you can add your phone and it'll.
All right, guys, I'm working on the sound. I'll try
Oh,
to
we got
dial
you
in.
now. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
He said he's working on it.
Oh, I got you.
Why aren't my emails sending?
What's that? Yeah, that's right.
Give me FaceTime.
Yeah. We'll sit him right there.
WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound.
Testing one. Nelson, can you hear us? No.
Your entry is not valid or the meet. Enter your attendee ID or the numeric meeting password, followed by pound. Your entry is not valid. Enter your attendee ID or the numeric meeting password, followed by pound.
Testing one.
My apologies. I'm trying everything. It was working earlier when I tested it.
What about now? Nelson, can you hear us? All right. Looks like we're back on. Roll call. We'll just start that again. Taylor Van Dever,
Here.
Will Haston,
Here.
Nelson Pratt.
Here.
Thank you, sir. All right. We have quorum for the Committee on Expert Reviews, and then Chair, it's to your pleasure. You have all those 4 documents that were provided to us previously. Just as a recap for those that might be listening, Mr. McGowan, he was the president of Tennessee Appraiser Coalition, and Randy Button, former chair of the Tennessee Real Estate Appraiser Commission and member of the Appraisal Institute, proposed reviewing the assignment conditions for state expert reviewers to determine if opportunities for additional standardization may exist. Randy Button indicated that implementation of an official training manual, review worksheet, quality controls that establish minimum documentation for findings, consistent monitoring via audits for the established standard, and providing a framework to communicate USPAP or regulatory changes could enhance the review process and help provide consistency. And so as a result, the committee will review the proposal that was submitted several months ago, near the end of last year. We'll review that proposal in current expert review process. So with that very short, kind of a mouthful, but with that short summary, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It seems over maybe the past several years, we've been hearing about the need or the request for a complaint review reform. I've heard from a lot of different people, seen a lot of different documents. It seems like there is a need, but we've also learned that the process right now is working fairly well, I think, in comparison to years past. So would like to hear once again, just so we all get on the same page, what happens when a complaint is received in the office? Very, very summarized. We don't have to go into great detail.
So when a complaint comes in to our centralized complaints department, they send out the complaint to the respondent, who then gets an opportunity to answer the complaint with their own summary of what happened, provide their work file in the appraisal. It comes over to me. I review it, at which point I determine if there's allegations of USPAP and if it needs to go out for an expert review, which most of them do. It goes out for an expert review. They have 30 days to complete that review. Then they provide me what they determine based on their review of the complaint, the response, and the appraisal.
How many of the complaints percentage-wise end up going to that next step to the USPAP review?
I would say 9 out of 10. Most of the complaints that come in contain allegations of USPAP. There are here and there that they didn't come and complete the appraisal, which obviously can't go out for a review because there's no appraisal, but the majority of them go out for expert review.
So some complaints are filtered out based on the complainant not making a USPAP allegation, or you not finding even a vague USPAP allegation?
Yeah, the ones that don't go out are just ones that are not complaints particular to the actual appraisal themselves.
Gotcha.
How long does the respondent have to respond once they make the complaint?
2 weeks before it comes over to legal. If I don't get a response by that point, I also reach out to try to get a response.
Okay, so 14,
And we also provide a past due letter to the
Okay.
respondent, letting them know
yeah.
they missed the opportunity to respond, but to please.
So
Answer our
14
call.
days is the typical,
Mhm.
is that stated in our, like, once you make a complaint, does it say that you have 14 days to respond?
Yeah, in the letter that's sent to, by centralized complaint, it gives them that time frame.
Okay. And so then after the 14 days, you sort of basically remind them that they have not responded. And
Mhm.
then what's the grace period?
So all of that is happening before it comes to legal. It's happening over in centralized complaints.
Got it.
Once it comes to legal, at that point, I try to get a response. And if I don't get a response by the time the legal report comes before the commission, I include in there that I never received a response. If I receive a response anytime during that time frame, then I provide the response and move forward with it.
So tell me a little bit about the centralized complaint system. I don't know I was not aware of that. Like what?
What exactly? So centralized complaints, I think the easiest way would be a clearinghouse for all of regulatory boards and also some of fire prevention. So the complaints are filed through a system online through CORE, and it comes in through centralized complaints. They're the individuals that receive the complaints, and then they will also transmit that complaint information to the respondent. And so the letter tells them that a written response must be filed with this office within 14 days of your receipt of this notice. And then in your response, please provide a detailed explanation of the allegations presented. And so they have 14 days to submit that response. Occasionally, individuals will ask for an extension, and I grant extensions for 2 weeks. Usually, I don't permit them beyond that. However, beyond those 14 days, if we don't receive a response, a past due letter will be sent by centralized complaint saying we haven't received a response from you. Please submit a response. And then after that, I think it's maybe probably a week later, it'll be referred up to the legal division. So they're the individuals that hold the complaint information. They get the complaints, they send the response to the complaint back to the complainants. And then if the complainant submits a rebuttal, then they'll put that in the file. They are the first line of communication with the respondents and complainants.
Okay. And so when does the, when is there a time frame that, I mean, obviously there's things that come up and if a respondent doesn't respond and things that we can't prevent, but is there a time frame that we're trying to put on this at all?
Yeah. Complaints, yes. We're trying to get complaints to what we call internally a clock stopping action within 180 days of receipt.
Okay. And so you're hoping to have the whole process wrapped up by, after 180 days. Is that?
No.
No.
So we're trying to get the complaints presented to you all and presented and then hopefully have some kind of disposition for the complaint within 180 days.
Gotcha.
So for this board, it's a little bit easier, even though we have the expert review component, but some of our boards have a much higher volume. So getting those complaints within 180 days can prove to be difficult, but that's what we try to do.
All right. And are y'all just, I would imagine y'all deal with several regulatory boards. How many regulatory boards do y'all deal with?
Taylor has additionally the Motor Vehicle Commission, and I have 4 additional boards.
Okay. Okay.
So I have 5.
Gotcha. Tell me about the review appraisal process, the expert review. So it's an RFP is sent out and the individuals that respond to the RFP, you guys are making a selection as to who would be the appropriate fit for an expert reviewer.
So we're mostly when we're doing RFP process is to make sure that the individuals meet the qualifications that are outlined in the RFP. And so based upon that, we of course, like all RFPs, will score the proposals that are received. And if it receives a score that's passing score, then that individual, and we're able to negotiate a contract with services, then that individual will become an expert reviewer. The issue that we have historically had is a lack of response from individuals. And that is sent out to all of our appraisers. We've sent out the list to individuals, all of the licensees. So that's been our issue in the past, is the response.
And I don't mean to take up,
No, keep going.
if, once you receive, the individuals that, or the RFP, does the RFP state what the fee is for the review?
It depends if we're going to do what type of RFP, if we do an RFP or if we do a designated, I don't know, the other one is a DA. So we can set a price of what we would like for services, but then there's another opportunity for them to set the price, and then we can look at it that way. So it's, I believe it's one or the other, not both of them. It just depends on what type of contract we decide to pursue.
Okay.
And typically for this one, we started setting the price ourselves. Obviously, I don't think that price was market compatible. So then after that, we had individuals give us their prices and we went from there.
Okay.
Do you think a lot of the lack of response in the past has been price-based, or some of it anyway?
Probably price base, and maybe also just like a lack of interest in doing the work. It's probably trying to explain to people the importance of the role and why we need it, and why that position is more so of an assistance to regulating the program than making money would be a little bit more difficult, because obviously our prices are not going to be the same price as you would receive at the market. And anyone can decide to use their time and resources otherwise. So I think it's a little bit of both. And then also you have a general reluctancy of a licensee base wanting to look at their peers' work and make a determination of whether they believe that individuals' work is deficient or if there are any issues.
Have we ever, and I know that we've gone out and sent out RFPs to all the licensees, so this would be, they would have received this, but I know there's several review firms, or at least a couple of review firms in Tennessee that just do review. Have we appealed to them on a contract basis maybe, or is it just individual RFPs and that's it?
So the RFP is open to anyone. We have had reviewers that have been in neighboring jurisdictions that are also licensed in Tennessee. I know we at least had one reviewer that was in Mississippi. So it is available on our website. So if those review firms see it, it would be available for them to bid. I've not seen one bid before, but it's open to, I mean, technically everyone, but obviously you have to have those Tennessee credentials.
Sure.
Is it possible or legal for the board or legal to select the panel and then have that specific panel of 3 to 5 firms or people consider every opportunity to do a review, or is that even possible?
So it would not, the RFP process is supposed to be like an open bid situation. And I believe that's like by state law, I think. So we can't just target it to a certain group of persons, but after that, we always look to make sure that the persons are qualified, but I'd have to look into that specifically, but I don't think there's a way that we could just target it to one group of people, since we're, a governmental agency. We don't want to direct goods to one person over another.
Nelson, were you going to say something?
Yeah, Nelson Pratt. I was just curious, I was just a little confused on the fee structure. If you don't mind just explaining that. I know that we've had an issue getting people. So the RFP process is one thing, maybe or maybe not enough people are seeing that. But secondly, can you just clarify the fee structure again? You said it's either they propose that in the individual RFP, or are they conducting an RFP to be on the panel, of which they then would propose what the fee would be based on the actual review assignment?
So there are two different types of documents that we can use to solicit expert reviewers. I believe an RFP is where we set the amount. So we would set one amount for residential appraisal reports and then another amount for commercial residential appraisal amounts. So it would be like a set value. Then I know there is another solicitation document that allows individuals to submit their own personal bids. And so at that point, they would submit a bid if they were bidding for a residential, what they would want their range to be, or commercial, what they would want their range to be. So it's like two different types of documents that you would use, and it's all based upon what the program wants to do and what our needs are. So I know at one time for one cycle, we did both. So it just depends which one to use. And then I don't know the last time we did like a set value, but I know that at least when we have done this, I've tried to solicit review amounts based upon other individuals that have done it before, also asking, neighboring jurisdictions what they're setting their amounts are to. But, not everyone uses the expert review the way that we do. A lot of the boards themselves will just look at the complaints.
So you'll have different board members. You'll say, hey, you're going to get 5 complaints. You'll get 5 complaints.
Right.
And then the commission will look at that.
Yes, so I have had the lovely experience of helping Glenn with his architects and engineers board. And so the board actually reviews those complaints. So we would send it out to different board members depending on what it would be. So like for that board, if it's an engineer complaint, it'll go to a certain engineer. So in this one, what we would do is probably base upon it, since geographical competency is important. If it's one in East Tennessee, send it to an East Tennessee board member, Middle Tennessee, et cetera. So that's how it is done. But I want to be clear, if we were to do that, board members do not get paid.
I was going to say,
for
what would
that.
be, yeah, would they?
No,
they
the
were
board member,
compensated?
they don't
Yeah.
get paid for
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
that's
Gotcha.
just the way that they do it. And I think also that the way that they do it too, it's for them, they have a little bit more control over the process because they know exactly how the person is going to be looking at the complaint.
Right. Do we know are we limited or restricted by state law as to what we can quote on our RFP as to the fee structure? Or is it?
It's more of like a funds situation of how
Okay.
much money we have available for
Right.
the contracts,
Right,
not
right.
like a limit.
Yeah. And so in looking at the financial aspect, how many complaints does the board receive over, I don't want to do an annual, I guess annually, how many complaints do we receive? That involve an expert review?
We'd maybe receive, I don't know, let's say 50 to 60 complaints a year.
Okay.
And if Taylor is saying 9 out of 10 of those are going out for review, then we're sending about 40 to 50 of those out
Okay.
for review.
The way that I see this, and I guess my line of questioning is what I'm getting at is, and I'm not saying that some of the reviews that we've had and the legal reports that we've had are because of poor reviews. I'm just saying I think that maybe if we were to post, we're all busy. We all get multiple emails a day. And when I see something from the state, I look at it now because I'm on the commission. But I can see a normal appraiser in the course of business doesn't pay attention to that. But I do think that if there was a fee that caught the eye of an appraiser that might be willing to do it, that's a good appraiser. And I'm not saying that the review appraisers that we've had are bad. I'm just saying that we may get more interest in that process.
Right.
What do you think, Taylor? I mean,
Well, I mean, you're 100% correct. What is that fee?
well, that's what I guess that's what I'm asking. What is the fee that we've quoted in the past?
In the past, I'd have to pull that up. I'm not sure, but I want to say $500, $600.
You can see the invoice.
Okay, so I'm pulling an invoice. Yeah, so around $600.
Okay.
If I were to.
That's
just-
for residential.
For residential.
We don't get that many commercial complaints, so.
Yeah.
not really.
But if you did get a commercial complaint, have we had one in the past that you can tell me what the?
Usually the
invoice-
commercial complaints, it's a couple hundred more,
Okay.
just because of the complexity of it.
Right. Okay.
And in fairness, they've said that the reviewer can mark up their
Right.
fee if they so
Right.
choose.
Well, and my point is that to even get someone to engage in the process of communicating with you guys and trying to set their fee at a higher rate than what is posted, I mean, I would think a fee, I mean, this is all a function of time. I think I've got a little bit of privilege in the fact that I did that one review for the board last session. And it takes a lot of time. So to me, it almost takes more time to do a review or a proper review than it does to do an appraisal, because you're having to, you're making a judgment call on every line of the report, and you're really sort of digging in. So I mean, $600 is probably a normal fee to do an appraisal in the state of Tennessee. I would have, for a residential. It's probably between $500 and $800. I would think that, a fee higher than $800. And again, I know that we're getting into the financial aspect of this, but I think that might attract some better reviewers. And I'm not saying that this is the end all be all to the, this discussion. This is just one small aspect that I think may help bring in some more interest in the RFP process.
Can I ask one more question that goes along with that? In the RFP, what does the potential reviewer or set of reviewers receive in terms of information to allow them to make their decision? Is it, this is a residential property, or this is a residential property that's 3,000 square feet located in Cookeville, Tennessee? Like, what do they get?
So are you talking about like if they were to receive a complaint? So they
Well,
were,
if they were to receive an RFP, like what,
An
if they're going to make a decision on whether they want to accept it or bid it, what information
oh,
are
the
they receiving?
contract. So the contract itself is like a general contract, and it is for a specific amount of years typically. And each contract usually has a value amount, and it's based upon like reviews. So they're getting in their review, in the RFP, it tells them what is required, a review of a complaint, and it includes like if they would have to do expert testimony for a hearing, what that would be required, and what that rate is, because that's a different rate that would be set. So it's telling them all that is encompassed within the review, in the expert review process. And so like if we, of course, we could set, a more competitive rate, but what we really need is interest from persons, because I would go to say, I can't speak for any of our expert reviewers, I don't think anyone is really in it for the money. Like, because they, like you said, they can make more money, less time doing their own appraisals. It's more so for, do they want to do this type of work? Do they want to assist in what they're doing? I know we've had a previous board member, his was more so, he wanted to assist with the process and use his expertise that way. Money, again, tangential to whatever was going on. So it is, like you stated, it takes a lot more time to do, and people just don't want to usually do that.
You kind of answered my question. This is it's a very broad situation with the RFP process. It's not property specific. It's not market specific. They don't, someone seeing that may not really know what they're getting themselves into. So if I were to receive that email of some just very generic, broad, hey, do you want to participate in this process for $600? No. I mean, pretty simple, ignore the email, right? Like if the person that's receiving the request knows exactly what's being asked of them, maybe that would take someone over to the next step.
Well, I don't know exactly like how we would do that in that, the complaints that we get, it's more so the RFP explains everything that you have to do in it. But like the specifics of where it's going to be, we couldn't do that because it's supposed to be like for a specific amount of years generically. So when you get the complaints, like we send them out, our paralegal will send it and they'll include the complaint, what it is, and we'll ask them if they want to accept the project. Like, do you want to do this? Are you conflicted? Like, if it's more complex, no, I don't want to do that, or I'm conflicted. So they have like the right of refusal when they get it. So, I mean, I don't know what other like to do other than in our RFP because it very extensively explains what all is required of the job.
What is, how many reviewers, and I don't know if you can answer this, how many reviewers do we currently have?
4.
4.
But Taylor said only 2 of them really are accepting.
That's fine. So that obviously affects our timing as well,
Right.
is only having 2 review appraisers that are willing to take up the job.
Yeah.
Have we asked them any of these questions? The people that are accepting the work, what makes them want to accept the work? Why did they accept the work?
No, but we can.
I think that's a good idea. It's just sort of fact finding, understanding like the mentality behind why they're doing this work. Is it more fee based or is it more to help, the appraisal ecosystem?
And I haven't directly asked those questions, but there is one reviewer that has been working with us for quite a while. And I just spoke with him last week about a review that they completed, and they presented the sentiment that they just really enjoy doing this type of work.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the conversation was. But I wasn't directly asking them what brought them to the point of wanting to do the review
Right.
work. But I can definitely speak to them about that.
Out of the 4, is there a sufficient number of residential versus commercial, or are they all geared towards one side or the other?
We contract with reviewers that can complete residential and commercial work.
Do we provide them we received this information from Kevin and Randy. Do we provide any sort of framework, checklist, anything that's supposed to be accomplished in the review process? Or do they just sort of do their own thing?
So one of the reviewers that I was referring to has been completing reviews for the commission prior to when I began. And they had a template when I began working with them, and that's what they use every time. And then the second reviewer that we typically work with has their own template, but it's within the same vein. It's the same issues, same breakdown. So
And so you see that once you receive the review, they send the checklist with it.
Mhm.
Okay.
How do those 2 templates compare to the information that we were provided for the meeting, which is titled? Let's see.
Example review
Example
form.
review form. Oh, how do they compare to that?
Can I look at your
iPad? Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just going to look over this.
Yeah.
So it's set up differently, but it's the same information. I would say that there's go more into depth than this.
The ones that you,
The reviews that we receive, yes.
Nelson Pratt, are we able to provide this potentially at some point, this example review format? Is that the intent, that we could potentially provide this in some sort of a fillable document that would help streamline the process? I mean, to me, it seems like, a consistent streamlined review or process along with advertising and then potentially, the fee structure seem to be our three main things. Do we know if this example review is something that we could potentially provide, particularly if it's in a fillable document?
Is there a possible way to go with his question? Is there a way for us to see a completely blank version of the other templates that are currently being used and maybe have three options to discuss and say which ones are?
Yeah, I can redact a copy of the review that I'm receiving, so you can see what they're typing into.
What do you think about that, Nelson? Having options?
Yeah, Nelson, I guess my biggest question, I think that would be okay. I think, as long as the any review document adheres to USPAP and is clear and defined of what we're looking for. I guess to rephrase the question I had is the intent of this sample or example something that we could utilize to provide to people as here is a standardized template if you choose to use it that could potentially expedite the time and potentially entice other people to get involved in these reviews is really, I think, the main thing that I was asking.
Just judging by the overall conversation we've had for this amount of time, I think that's kind of the only thing we can do. We can't overhaul the process. We shouldn't overhaul the process, and I think we are going to overhaul the process. But if there's just a way to streamline it to where it's a consistent set of results for them to review and for appraisers in our profession, in our state, to know that they are subject to this specific wording in the review form and this specific set of check boxes. If we were to come up with this form, I would suggest that we send it out to everyone so they know how they're being scored.
As part of the RFP process?
No, not the RFP process, just
the review
appraisers in
process.
general. If you're going to be subject to an 11-page document like this one, you need to know that, and you need to know what it's specifically asking. Because if you need to restate your scope of work for some reason, or you need to add a line that's not in your template or in your form, you should know that on the front end. So maybe just kind of recalibrating everyone at the same time.
In the same vein, the commission has the ability to say that this is the review form we want to use and you have to use this review form, or do we not?
If that's what we want to do with our contracts moving forward, we can. But again, we can send it out to everyone, but I think the issue that we can't make people open the emails.
Right.
So the people that are the complaints are coming are getting complaints, they're not opening our emails. So we can do all of these things and fix it, but there's still I don't know how to fix I can't force anyone to look at anything. So sorry
Sorry for the interruption, Nelson Pratt. My take on that would be, this could be a document that we could use to help incentivize more people to get on the panel of the RFP. I would be a little concerned about mandating it, because if we only have two people that are actively reviewing, they have their own template that is as described, is good or more detailed than this, and then we mandate this, then that we could lose the one or two people that we have. To me, I don't know that I would necessarily mandate it as opposed to, offering something like this as a tool that somebody would know what they're getting into and would have a consistent form to maybe help, streamline the process on there. And I think, that would be my take as opposed to a true mandate, because I don't really want to lose the couple to four people that we have doing it if they have something else that they're using. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Right. No, I would agree. And we can't require them to use a specific form mid-contract. So this would be things moving forward saying, hey, this is a template, that we would prefer that you use. However, you don't have to use it, but something substantially similar or something like that, could be used, but in the future.
For someone that's never done a review for the state and they see this as an option, hey, I can just fill this out and I can help, or I can make an extra fee a week or whatever. Maybe that as an opportunity if they weren't set up in their office to do this type of work, that might add you one or two more people that could maybe speed up the process.
Again, when I did my review, I tried to use this form And it's extremely time consuming to use this form. It's just my own experience. I mean, I'm not trying to lead someone a different way or another. I'm just telling you that I tried to use this form, and it was extremely time consuming. And that's why I get back to the fee structure is, I feel, our biggest obstacle in attracting reviewers to help us. And so, I don't know, or I'm not going to pretend to say what I think that fee, the magic fee is, but I think a fee higher than a typical appraisal fee is in order.
Do you have a range?
Do I have a range? I mean, if I were doing this and it made me want to do it, I'd be between $900 and $1,200.
Okay.
Nelson Pratt, do we know what the typical fee is? Well, I don't know any residential review appraisals. Is that typical for the market? I'm just not sure exactly what that typical range is.
We were saying earlier that I don't know that the market fee rate, no, but we were saying
Yeah.
earlier that what the state or what we've sent out has been around
Right.
$600.
Right. I was just curious if that, you know, what would be consistent in the market? I'm just not as familiar with it as, you know, somewhere in that $600 to $1,200 range, I assume would be in the range of the market. But I was just curious if there was any intel on that, or if anybody knew what that typical range was.
I'm not a residential appraiser or reviewer at all, so take my comments for what it's worth. But when I hear residential appraisers quoting fees for potentially complicated assignments, 1,200 to, like 1,250 kind of seems to be the number that motivates them to get outside their box. Because I think residential appraisers, for the most part, operate within a box and a comfort zone, and it's going to have to be worth it for them to get out of that box and comfort zone to do something else. Otherwise, it's a very efficient process. This becomes an inefficient part of their day or their week. That number is what I had in mind, was 1,250.
Yeah, I think that a higher fee would attract probably more people to this process. I'm not saying that it's the end all be all, but I do think a higher fee would help there be more reviewers, and therefore would have a effect on the speed of how these things are handled. Because I know that you guys don't want to be dealing with this for 6 months, 8 months. So, you know, I mean, let me ask y'all, what if you were to design the perfect review process and knowing the obstacles that you face in working this, how would you, if you could design your own process, what would it be?
Aside from what we're doing currently?
Yeah.
So I personally, when reviewing an expert's determinations, I like the one that we use most typically. I like the form that they have because it goes into each section, like it has each section broken down, the contract section, the subject section, neighborhood section, each broken down. And it includes reviews of the complaint allegations, if the complaint allegations are substantiated, and then it goes into if they found anything additional in that section beyond the complaint. And to me, when preparing my summaries, I think that that's very helpful. It wouldn't hurt to have more, because there are times when more reviewers, because there are times when somebody's conflicted out or they're not an expert in the area. So having more experts obviously would aid in that process, because there's not many to go to if the first one we reach out to doesn't know the subject area or is conflicted out. And then we have to eventually go to board members, which we've done before. So making it more appealing for reviewers to want to be involved and having more options would help expedite the process to get more complaints on each appraisal report.
Right. So you agree that a higher fee may cut, I'm not putting words in
I
your
can't
mouth,
speak on,
but I'm just
I agree,
saying-
and I think there needs to be more interested appraisers that want to be involved in this work, because I think they have to want to do this because, as you mentioned, it's hard. It's a longer process than just doing a report. And so they have to be interested in wanting to complete these reviews and interested in actually being involved in the process of the regulatory of the industry.
I agree. I love the idealistic, thought that people should want to participate in this process, just like you can go vote. But I also don't think that that's going to be everyone's motivation. And so I think we've got to look at our fee structure in order to attract people that really good people that may want to benefit monetarily off this. I mean, I hate that to be the end all be all, but I do think that's a major factor in drive.
I mean, we can definitely set a more competitive price, but I will remind you that we did do the other way where people could set their own price and we still had, just as much interest as beforehand. And so
Yeah.
at that point, we're asking for an open number.
Yeah, I
So-
don't think like if I were to receive an email and said just provide your own stuff, I just want to see I would like to see a baseline, and I think that's what would create interest.
Well, I think if you couple maybe a floor fee that's higher and a template option, that might open up several more people that would be interested. Like I said earlier, my interest level in this would be 0 if I didn't have a reporting option to even provide, because you're starting from scratch. You're having to build your template and get $600, which doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But if you at least provide a template option and additional fee, that is bound to increase the number
Right.
of people.
So like if someone, new person were to come in and ask, how to do it, could give them what we'll give you guys, which is a redacted form of the template. I'll just be completely candid in saying this is I think it's an interest issue, but it's like an interest and mindset issue within this industry. Specifically. And I'll say that because when I first started working with this board, I had to work to explain that complaints from anyone can be complaints that we receive. At first, the point of view is if it's not from the bank, we don't care, right? And that's not the way that we look at it, right? And so the conversation needs to shift from being we're like the boogeyman. We're doing this for consumer protection purposes, and we're not trying to get when someone files a complaint, it's not like a gotcha type of situation. And I don't think that people want to do this because they don't want to have to be the persons that judge their own peers. No one really wants to do that. And so that's the issue that will that's a marketing thing or whatever we do from there. But trying to explain, yes, this is not going to be something that's going to make you the most amount of money. It will disrupt your normal workflow and the things that you do. And that ultimately it is part of the regulation of the industry and not as a, we're out to get you. It's all of those things combined together in order to get that. Because I think that's, if we even set the fee at a large amount, we're still going to have people that just don't want to do it. And we also have to think about, we have a smaller pool of licensees than some of our other boards do. So we're already working with a smaller group of people. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? It's we can work towards it, but maybe, I don't know, we have a conversation where we start talking about the process, why it's important to other people other than our meetings of why we need this to try and garner interest. Because I think ultimately, no matter, even if we were to set a higher fee, if people don't want to do it, we're not going to have.
I think you're right. I think more communication. Again, I'm not a marketing expert, but I do think more communication, along with a set, a floor at the fee structure level, in a continued effort to try and cultivate more reviewers is probably a good idea. I know that we're probably over time. But I just think more reviewers reduces the time that this all, an actual process goes through. And so even if you get one more out of this process, like that's going to reduce time.
Right.
So to me, I think that's the biggest obstacle is trying to get another reviewer, because I think one of the complaints was just the time frame. Like
Mhm.
it takes a while. And
Right.
so the more reviewers, the less time it takes.
And we will dispatch those complaints as soon as we get them. And so if let's say we try to do within 180 days, usually complaints will come to us at least 30 something days old. And we will get them out and we'll ask for a specific time, usually before the next meeting. But oftentimes, if it doesn't come to this meeting, it can usually go to the second meeting based upon timing. So, we try to be as flexible as we can with the timing to allow people the amount of time to use the complaint. So for the next meeting, what we could do is we'll bring a redacted copy of a sample that we've been using. We can look at that and compare it to what we already have. And I don't know if you guys hang out with your appraiser friends, if you could just kind of we guessed what the fee range would be here. But if you talk to them, ask them, hey, hypothetically, if you were to do this, what are you looking for?
Right.
What type that would be, because I don't know how to get that information because I don't have a lot of appraiser friends.
Yeah, and I
So-
just talked to just texted a review appraiser, and he gave me the fee range for residential. But this is the fee range that he is providing. He said $300 to $500 for residential, but that's a different ball of wax, because you are doing that. That's a quantity pricing. This is a very more in-depth process because of all the stuff that's on the line. You're protecting the consumer. You're protecting, you're criticizing the appraiser. Like there's a lot of online that you've got to look at, and it doesn't, that's just a quantity version. That's not a one review that's going to have the, all the eyes and the weight that it carries. So I think that the fee structure should be higher for this process.
Right. Just ask your friends what they think.
Yeah.
Could you also get some feedback from the reviewers on the panel, just so you
Yeah.
can provide us with what their thoughts are?
We wrote down some of the things that we were asking before, and we can get that feedback to you as well.
Okay.
Looks like we're out of time, guys. But we do have a committee reports where you can update the full board once we convene the board. So we're going to take about a couple minutes just so you guys can, do whatever you need to do. And then we'll start a couple minutes late on the board meeting, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll get started soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to
Call us to order. It's, looks like 10:08, and then we'll get started whenever you're ready.
Monday, April 20th, 2026 meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Appraiser Commission. We're ready for roll call.
Thank you, sir. All right. Brett Mansfeld,
Here.
Taylor Vandever,
here?
Will Haston,
Here.
Nelson Pratt,
Here.
Francie Mello,
Here.
Sandra Tuck,
Here.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Here.
Eric Robinson,
Here.
and Alex Bynum.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. We have a quorum. We do have one attending by virtually, Mr. Pratt. So as a result, we'll just, all of our action items will be roll call vote. So just want to keep that in mind as we move forward. And as another reminder too, the notice of the public comment period is located at the end of the agenda. So as soon as we get done with new business, right before we adjourn, we'll give the public an opportunity to make any comments related to the agenda. They can either sign in, if there is a member of the public listening, they can sign into the chat, and then we'll give you the floor at that time. Or they can sign in to this podium to my left here, and then we'll give them that opportunity. Meeting notice, let me just read that into the record. Notice of the April 20th, 2026 meeting of the Real Estate Appraiser Commission has been noticed on the website since September 26, 2025. The month's agenda was posted on April 13th, 2026. We're going to go ahead and adopt the agenda. And then once we do that, then we'll be free to recognize the Appraisal Foundation and the several of their members for their topic of and their presentation. So the agenda.
Second?
Got
Yeah.
a motion and a second. We don't need a roll call this, right?
We will. Yeah. Roll call vote then. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Taylor, you won't let somebody
Mayor.
call in earlier. Now you're sabotaging the chair's mic. I tell you, man, you gotta keep an eye on that guy. All right, thank you though. So we've got the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the Appraisal Foundation presentation. Let me introduce, I guess, Mr. Fontana. Are you going to be the first one to address this? He's the chair, while he's coming up, he's the chair of the State Harmonization Task Force. You do have his presentation in front of you. It's item number 2 on your agenda. And it's whenever you're ready.
Thank you, folks. It's wonderful to be here in Tennessee today. My name is Pete Fontana, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees for the Appraisal Foundation, and I chair our State Harmonization Task Force, which I'll explain to you folks what our goals and objectives are. I also chair the Montana Board, so I'm a professional colleague of yours as well. And our team that we put together at the Appraisal Foundation is a combination of trustees and stakeholders that have an interest in the appraisal profession and the users of appraisal services as well. One of the key members of our task force is the appraisal subcommittee. So anything we talk about today, I can assure you that there'll be no challenges with some of the topics we talked to you about that from the appraisal subcommittee standpoint. If you were to be reviewed for some of the policies that we would suggest that maybe the board consider changing. So that was important to us to have a member of the appraisal subcommittee on our task force for that very reason. So our task force was set up last year in January to take a look at all the states' laws, rules, and regulations to see which states had overlays over the minimum criteria for professional licensing in our field. And there's only 9 states that adopt the criteria by reference. And ironically, the state of Tennessee is one of those states, but there are some significant overlays and some challenges in your statutes and rules that actually would indicate that you don't incorporate the AQB criteria by reference, which means whatever the criteria is, then the state of Tennessee would adopt that as the minimum criteria to become licensed. And so we'll discuss a couple of those challenges with you today and some of the inconsistencies in your statutes. We've been to 22 different states so far. It was a requirement of mine to chair this committee that we do direct engagement so we can come and talk to you folks directly and talk to you professionally about some of the challenges and how to overcome those. On March 13th, the president signed an executive order that put the target right on the back of the Appraisal Foundation and state regulatory boards that specifically said that their intention is for the Appraisal Foundation to lower the criteria or minimize the criteria to become licensed in this profession. That's the first time in the history of this profession in over 35 years since FIREA that the president has drafted an executive order of such magnitude, and we'll discuss that with you today. And I don't know if you're all familiar with the executive order, but that's something we should discuss too. So anyway, I'm joined today by one of my colleagues on the task force, Scott DiBiasio, with the Appraisal Institute. And I don't know if my other colleague was able to join. It's John Russell. He's a consultant with Value Sided Consulting and used to be a member of the Board of Trustees with the Appraisal Foundation as well. If John was not able to, I know he's on, but I didn't know if he was a presenter. He said you sent him a link, but is he able to present today? If not, I'll take he'll talk about while she's doing that, some of the challenges that we face in some of the states are 7 of the states don't even allow the licensed appraisal category, which is a significant overlay because it's the easiest way to get into the profession that requires the least amount of hours. And currently, it's the only one that doesn't require a college degree. Now, the Appraisal Foundation's Board of Trustees, the Appraisal Qualification Board is going through a massive rewrite of the criteria. And one of the proposals is to eliminate the college degree requirement across all 3 license levels. I don't know if all of you have had a chance to comment on the exposure draft, but I think that there'll be a second exposure draft coming out very soon for states to comment on. And we think it's very important, at least I do, from a regulator standpoint, that state boards, or at least individuals on these boards, comment on this, because really you guys are the ones that are the total user of what we produce. Number one, the criteria to become licensed is what you set your measure and standards by. And then when you're disciplining people, you're using USPAP to make sure that they're complying with the minimum standards. So state regulatory boards are really using the full complement of what we're doing at the Appraisal Foundation. And so we would encourage you to take a look at the AQB's exposure draft and comment on that. So currently the 7 states that don't allow the license category, it's also problematic because if you transferred from Tennessee to like Indiana or Pennsylvania or Florida because of a job relocation, you're out of business. They don't recognize your license if you're a licensed appraiser. So you can't even port yourself to a state that doesn't recognize that. So that's a significant overlay in our industry. One of the other challenges we're having is we're losing appraisers at a record pace, and we're not replacing them. And so that's why we're trying to talk about barriers to entry over and above the minimum requirements of the AQB criteria. And so in 2015, there was about 92,000 individually identified appraisers, and that's not appraisers that hold multiple licenses. That's individual licenses, and currently we're down to about 65,000. And the estimate by 2030 is it'll be down to in the 40,000 range. We were just in the state of Illinois. They had 8,000 appraisers in 2015. They're down to 3,200 in a state of 14 million. And so if we don't do something about and address the criteria to become an appraiser and not make it so difficult to get in, then the users of appraisal services are just going to find ways to collateralize the value without appraisers. And we don't want that. As appraisers, we don't want that. And as a regulatory board, we don't want people not being able to question how their value is collateralized. You can't file a complaint against an ABM. You can't file a complaint against a data collector. And so we want to be able to have responsible leadership in our industry. And that's why we're meeting with every state board. Was John able to join?
He's on here. I'm trying to get him as a panelist.
Okay. I'll just talk about what John was going to talk about, which is specifically the overlays that you have, and then Scott can piggyback on that. So your statute does incorporate the AQB criteria by reference, which means that whatever the criteria is that allows for experience or requirements is acceptable. However, further along in the statute and the rules, you only allow 25% mass appraisal experience, which is an overlay. And so by reference would mean that you would accept 100% mass appraisal experience because that's what the AQB criteria allows. And so that is an overlay, and it's a little bit conflicting in your statute about incorporating by reference. The other thing is that you require the trainee to have 24 months experience under a certified residential, certified general appraiser, which is quite a bit more than the AQB criteria refers to. And so the statute, I'm not sure how you guys address that when somebody would question that you incorporate by reference and they're using mass appraisal experience, which that was basically how the task force got set up. We're 100% in support of states allowing mass appraisal experience to count for all of their credit. And the reason is that these people are actually in our industry. They're actually doing appraisal work. It's a little different than standard 1 or 2 appraisal work, but they're interested in our industry. They're engaged in our industry. They understand the principles and procedures. They understand USPAP. They're in a structured work environment. They're used to following laws, rules, and regulations. And they're actually doing appraisal work. And so when the AQB right now is considering alternative appraisal experience or alternative experience account, they're looking at stuff like should a broker's experience count, should a home inspector's experience count. I wouldn't disagree with that, but to say that somebody that's in our business as an appraiser to limit the amount of experience that counts toward licensure, remember they also have to take all the qualifying education classes, which are 100% geared toward single family standard 1 and 2 appraisal work. They still have to take that rigorous state national exam that only has a 62% pass-fail ratio, which means that even the people getting drugged around by the traditional supervisor model aren't learning what they should be learning at the level that is acceptable because the pass-fail ratio is so low. In the state of Colorado, they've licensed 16 mass appraisers. All 16 of them passed the test on their first try, which means that they were more prepared for that exam in the standard 1 and 2 category than people that were actually being supervised by in the traditional way. So these folks are not a risk to the public. They're not a threat to the public trust. They're actually engaged in our business, and that's why we would encourage you to accept all their experience. One of the ways that you can overcome like trying to review that experience is that in Montana, we require them to submit 2 standard 1 and 2 reports. What that does is assure us that they took all their educational experience, whatever experience they had in their mass appraisal job, and then they applied it in a standard 1 and 2 setting to prove to us that they could actually competently perform the task. And so we use that to make sure that Utah does that as well. And so there's these other measures that you can do to be confident that their experience is relevant to the license they're asking for. So that's what our goal and our objective is to just visit with the state boards. We're not a regulatory agency. We're here as the Appraisal Foundation to be a resource for you. And I can assure you that this isn't a one and done for us. We will continue to communicate with the state of Tennessee, and one of our task force members will be assigned specifically to your state so that they can be the resource for you should you have questions. They will attend all the rest of your meetings virtually just to make sure if there are questions we're available. And so we're not going to go away and just say, we're just here to tell you what to do. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to be a resource for you and to point out some of the challenges that are facing us, especially with this presidential executive order, which I have no idea where that's headed, but it's a direct shot at the foundation to lower the criteria. And that's, thankfully, we've been out here for a year saying the same thing, talking to state boards about that issue of overlays. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott. He's going to give you a little bit of an update on POREA and some of the other challenges in your statute as well. And then we'll take some questions and see if there's anything we can do. Okay? Is he on a presenter? Okay. You can just have John speak after that. Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. As Pete said, I'm Scott DiBiasio, Director of Government Relations with the Appraisal Institute. It's good to be back here in Nashville. Haven't been here in several years. I think the last time I was here, we were talking about potentially adopting standards other than USPAP. That was an interesting conversation. But really have 2 or 3 things that I wanted to do this morning before I turn it over to John Russell. I wanted to talk about a couple of the overlays that exist in both your statutes and in your rules. I did want to touch on a few other things in relation to the president's executive order. And then, as Pete said, provide you a little bit of an update as to where POREA stands at this point. Of course, Tennessee was one of the early adopters of POREA. And I just wanted to provide some additional information on how that program is going. So Pete pointed out the 2-year limitation in your statutes. That's actually kind of interesting because the rules that you have in place that detail the requirements for licensing or certification are contrary to what's in the statute and actually allow for the 6, 12, and 18 months, as I read it, and the same number of hours as is required by the real property appraiser qualification criteria. So I'm not sure exactly how you deal with that conflict, but obviously, adopting by reference is preferred, and having the licensing time periods and hours as adopted by the AQB is preferable. So if that is, if I'm reading the statute correctly, if that is the case, I would encourage you, and we can certainly help with this, to perhaps in a future legislative session go in and try to clean that up a little bit so that there is no conflict that could be interpreted by a future commission as saying, no, we have to require everybody that applies for licensing or certification to have 2 years of experience working with a supervisor. I talked about Perea, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. But even though Tennessee was an early adopter of Perea, there's nothing in the rules right now related to Perea. And again, this commission, previous commissions, have stated their intent to allow for Perea to be utilized for experience, but future commissions could interpret the rules differently. And of course, Perea is part of the real property appraiser qualification criteria, which is, I think, the basis for Tennessee accepting Perea now. But I would encourage you to take a look at that and perhaps put a framework in place directly in the regulations that defines how Perea operates here in Tennessee and how it can be used to satisfy the experience requirement. One of the additional overlays, and I found this to be kind of interesting, is that the real property appraiser qualification criteria allows somebody who is a licensed appraiser in good standing for, I believe it's a period of 5 years, to be able to upgrade to certified residential without having the required college level education. And I did not see that in the rules. And like Pete said, there are some states that don't even have the LR credential, but if you haven't, if you have people that are licensed, perhaps they may want at some point to upgrade to certified residential. From what I understand, the Appraiser Qualifications Board is looking at, nothing formal has been proposed yet, but they're looking at a similar path for somebody to be able to upgrade from certified residential to certified general. I think that's going to be a little bit trickier because you're dealing with two different disciplines, but certainly allowing somebody to upgrade who's been an appraiser for a long period of time and just simply doesn't have that college level education. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be able to upgrade to certified residential through the path that's allowed by the AQB. Couple of other things, and please don't take any of these comments as being criticisms of your rules, because they're not. They're just things that I noticed. And you allow for foreign general education, meaning the college level education that's required for CR and certified general. But it's a very complicated process, as I read it, for somebody to be able to use foreign college level education. They have to go through quite a process to get that approved and to determine equivalency. So that could be a little bit of a roadblock to entry into the profession. Similarly, there are some states that will allow foreign qualifying education if it's determined to be equivalent as well. That may be something that you want to take a look at. In terms of distance education, in the rules, there's a heavy emphasis on asynchronous, which is great. But I didn't see any references to synchronous education. I think the reason for that is the AQB has determined synchronous to be equivalent to classroom. So perhaps the rules don't necessarily have to specifically touch on synchronous, because the same rules that apply for classroom education would apply to synchronous as well. Maybe something you want to take a look at in the rules at some point. And this is kind of interesting, and I think it was kind of probably unintentional, but in terms of who you allow to be continuing education providers, it talks about colleges and universities and proprietary schools. But in other sections of the rules, it also talks about some other entities like the Appraisal Institute, a professional appraisal organization. We probably would be defined as a proprietary school, I would guess, for purposes of that section of the rules. But for consistency's sake, you may want to enumerate, all the same entities that are allowed to provide qualifying education in the section on continuing education. And of course, the elephant in the room is the limitation on mass appraisal experience being used only to satisfy 25% of the experience required to become licensed or certified. So just a couple of things I wanted to point out for the commission and staff as things that you may want to try to clean up in the rules. in order to be harmonized with other states, especially the states surrounding Tennessee. So switching gears real quick, I wanted to just mention briefly, Pete mentioned the president's executive order that came out on March 13th. I was out on the West Coast and it was 2:01 p.m., so 5:01 p.m. on the East Coast, and it came out of the blue. It was not something that we were expecting. Usually agencies in the White House will call you and give you a heads up if there's something that's coming out that is going to impact your organization or your profession. Nothing on this one. So we were caught off guard a little bit shocked by it, but we responded quickly, got some communications out, formed a stakeholder working group. So I think we're well prepared to be able to respond to any specific proposals that emanate from the president's executive order. So the title of the executive order is Promoting Access to Mortgage Credit, and there's about 12 different sections on various different topics, all related obviously to mortgage lending. But Section 6 is titled Appraisal Modernization, and it does a number of different things. First, it requires all of the federal bank regulatory agencies to modernize their appraisal regulations, and I think you all can figure out what exactly modernize means. And the executive order also directs the agencies to expand the use of alternative valuation models, more desktops and hybrid appraisals, and to more extensively utilize artificial intelligence and allow lenders to more aggressively use artificial intelligence in the appraisal space. What does all that mean? Well, I think the first place that everybody should look is to the government-sponsored enterprises, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and see what they do, probably at the direction of their regulator, the FHFA. But I think what you're going to see the GSEs do is significantly expand the use of appraisal waivers. Right now, the GSEs offer lenders waivers of the appraisal requirements in about 22 to 25% of the situations. Not all of those waivers are exercised by the lender. Those are the ones that I believe are offered. I think you could see that number like we saw during the pandemic. It went as high as about 52% of the transactions. And I think you could see them ratchet that number up pretty quickly to somewhere around the 50 or even maybe even 60% mark. Obviously, that would mean contraction in the residential appraisal space. We've already seen significant contraction in the profession, but I think we would see even more significant contraction if the GSEs go to predominantly utilizing appraisal waivers. You're going to see more desktops, I think, more use of property data collectors, and of course, the incorporation of artificial intelligence. Pete alluded to the requirement in the executive order for the bank regulatory agencies, presumably through the Appraisal Foundation, the setter of appraiser qualifications. It directs the agencies to simplify their appraiser qualification requirements. And I think the one thing that is probably going to become a directive, probably from the White House to the Appraisal Foundation, is that they take an even harder look at the experience requirement for licensure certification, up to and including removing the requirement entirely. Interestingly enough, when FIREA was enacted in 1989, the report that accompanied, or it may have been an oversight hearing that was held a couple of years after FIREA was enacted, but in one of those reports, it specifically says that Congress did not intend for there to be an experience requirement because it would be, at that time, would be too high of a barrier to entry into the profession. So it was the AQB and the foundation took it amongst themselves at some point, I don't know when it was, to put in place the experience requirement. So a lot of talk in Washington right now about taking a look at the experience requirement, a lot of chatter about it potentially going away entirely. That may or may not be the case, but that is a discussion that's going to be coming. And I think the AQB is going to have a lot of pressure put on it to eliminate the experience requirement entirely. Now, the AQB is an independent body. They don't have any responsibility and don't report to bank regulatory agencies or to the White House. So they don't have to do anything with the experience requirement, but I think the very survival of the foundation itself depends on them responding to White House pressure to do away with that requirement. I think you're also going to see, and I think this was probably coming down the pike even before this executive order, but the requirement for the valuation bias and fair housing laws and regulations courses for both qualifying and continuing education. I think a directive is going to come from the White House to the AQB to do away with that requirement as well. Again, AQB has no compulsion to respond, but I think they'd be hard pressed not to if that message is coming directly from the White House. So when that requirement was put in place, you know, obviously a very different political environment, and obviously the requirement is for 4 hours every 2 years on a continuing basis, 7 hours the first time, 8 hours for first-time licensees. But let's just say 4 hours every 2 years. That is really onerous and really burdensome and really excessive. Fair housing law doesn't change that readily, that somebody really has to become educated and up to speed every 2 years. Perhaps every 5 years or maybe even every 10 years would have been more appropriate. But I think even that being said, I think the requirement probably is going to go away, or at least the AQB is going to be pressured to make that requirement go away entirely. A couple of other things in the executive order. I won't spend a lot of time on these. I know you have a full agenda and need to move on. But the executive order directs the reduction of the appraisal requirements for low-risk transactions, including low loan-to-value refinancing and small balance loans. And it also directs, and I don't quite understand this one, but it directs the agencies to set clear appraisal timelines. We'll just have to see what all of that means. Obviously, you know, this executive order is short on specifics, and all of this will be implemented by the regulatory agencies, and we're in regular contact with them, and we'll just have to see, you know, what their thinking is, and what they ultimately propose as a way to implement this executive order. Just two other things. Well, yeah, we don't need to touch on the last one, but the executive order directs the Secretary of HUD and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to align their appraisal standards between FHA and the VA home loan program. Right now, in many areas of the country, the VA is having difficulty getting appraisals, particularly in rural areas. So there is some talk about the VA appraisal panel or appraisal program being merged with the FHA appraisal roster, and procuring appraisals in the VA program via that process. And of course, you know, the VA appraisal panel is direct engagement. They pay very well, and appraisers love doing work for the VA. Not so much for FHA assignments. A lot more involvement of appraisal management companies in FHA assignments. And obviously, you know, there's all kinds of challenges associated with that. And lastly, the executive order directs VA in particular to clarify the distinction in appraisal and inspection between safety and habitability concerns that necessitate pre-closing repairs versus cosmetic concerns. A lot of appraisers in following the VA protocol have identified correctly, you know, various deficiencies in a property that require correction before the transaction can close. And that has resulted in significant delays for veterans being able to get into homes, and has resulted in increased cost for the veteran. And a lot of the things that have been pointed out by VA appraisers aren't necessarily safety concerns. They're more cosmetic. So the VA is directed to sort of back off and lighten up on those minimum property requirements a little bit. So that's all really for the executive order. And like I said, short on specifics, but you know, we'll just have to see where all of this goes. We've put together a stakeholder group of all of the professional appraisal organizations so that we are going to be responding in a collaborated and coordinated manner to whatever proposals we see come out from the various agencies. So Lastly and quickly, I just wanted to provide you a little bit of an update on Perea. Perea is going really, really well. We have had, let's see, as of April 10th, there have been 81 folks that have completed Perea. 53 have gone on to get their licensed residential credential, and 5 have even gone on to become certified residential. There are 242 total current participants in the Appraisal Institute's Perea program, which is still the only program that's available for both LR and CR. I understand that there are 2 other programs currently under development, but our program is the only one that's readily available in the marketplace right now. So 242 of those, 224 are in the LR program and 18 are in the CR program. We do have a waiting list, unfortunately, for Perea right now, and there are 205 people on the waiting list to get in, and an additional 125 who are going through the readiness process and will be put on the waiting list once they've completed all of those requirements. One of the things that we're most proud of, like Pete said, for the 16 folks in Colorado that got licensed using mass appraisal experience, all of them have passed the exam on the first attempt. All 58 folks that have gotten licensed or certified already via Perea, 100% have passed the exam on the first attempt. That is obviously not true of those that take the exam after completing their experience through the supervisor trainee path. That's somewhere around 52, 55%. It varies a little bit. But 100% of the folks have passed the exam on the first attempt. So these are some really, really qualified and competent appraisers that are being turned out of the Perea program. We even had one young lady who was one of the folks that got licensed as certified residential. And I didn't advise this, but she actually hung out a shingle on the first day that she had her license, and is doing really well, and is being hired by clients, and completing assignments and flourishing in her career, just having gotten a license 6 or 9 months ago. So that's something that we're really proud of. So anyway, that's just a little bit of an update. Like I said, the program's going well. It hasn't been without its challenges, of course, but as with every program, especially one that's based heavily upon technology, there are going to be glitches and things that need to be worked through, and we're just addressing those challenges as they come up. But good program, rigorous program, taking folks a lot longer than we anticipated to get through the program, and quite frankly, some of them are struggling. But that I think is part of the reason why 100% of them pass the exam on the first attempt, because the program is rigorous, it's comprehensive, it's standardized. So it's something that we're very, very proud of, and I'm hoping that any other Perea programs that come out that are approved by the AQB will uphold those same standards as well. So with that, I am going to turn it over to, if he's able to get on, if he's able to speak to John Russell, who is the third leg of the State Harmonization Task Force. There's a lot of other members of the task force as well, but John, Pete, and I have been the ones that have been out on the road coming and meeting with state commissions and boards. So John, if you're available and online, you can take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Can everybody hear me? I don't know if you can see me.
Yes.
Can we hear me? Yes, no? Maybe
Yes.
so? I got a thumbs up. I'm good. All right. Well, hey, again, thank you all for the time. My name is John Russell. Happy to be part of the State Harmonization Task Force. And apologies for the technological gremlins getting in. Nobody likes Mondays, and apparently my computer chose not to like Mondays today. We spent a lot of time today talking about what's happening, obviously, here in Washington between executive branch, legislative branch, AQB. Really want to talk about the why for maybe just 2 minutes. Be respectful of your time. I know we've taken a lot of it today, and we appreciate that. The most recent numbers we have from the appraisal subcommittee tells us we have nationwide about 66,000 total appraisers, and that covers the gambit from licensed residential, certified residential, and certified general. Those 66,000 professionals hold about 88,000 licenses or credentials. So maybe like 1 1/3 per person, 1 1/4 per person nationwide. That's certainly down from the high water mark of about a decade ago by a little less than half. And so our main concern at a foundation level and a profession-wide level is how do we start to turn the tide, not just backfilling for those individuals who are leaving the profession for any number of reasons. I don't think we've really talked a lot today about UAD 3.6 and the change that's going to augur as we go toward November and mandatory adoption. But really, we also have this fact that, we just need to figure out how do we get more people in, period. And it's kind of a short-term and a long-term problem. Longer term, we're going to see the AQB make changes to the criteria. They've already done a first exposure draft. Hopefully you commented. I'd anticipate a second exposure draft later this year. I'd encourage you to comment again. But this is why we're really focused on the mass appraisal experience piece and trying to make that pathway more attractive for individuals with an assessment background to come into the fee appraisal side of the profession and get their license or certification. There are individuals who've already got a demonstrated interest in the valuation profession. They have extensive experience working in a valuation office, albeit in the mass appraisal space. They understand methods and techniques, albeit applied on a broad basis using a lot of technology. And on that technology front, that's really where the profession is headed. It's going to be more technology first, technology forward. Technology has been at the root of mass appraisal and ad valorem work for over 4 decades now. So they're well equipped to pick up the technology that's really starting to emerge within the fee appraisal space today as we again make this pivot in 3.6 and what that next phase is going to look like. So that's why we always encourage boards like yourself, hey, take a longer look at what you're requiring for individuals who want to take advantage of their prior mass appraisal assessment office experience, who again have that demonstrated interest. And as Pete alluded to earlier today, if you want to develop that additional comfort level with their ability to operate in a standard 1 and 2 environment, work product review is the most powerful tool we have because it's the only time you really get to dive in and understand somebody's thought process as they go through the whole of development and reporting assignment results. And so that's where you have a chance to say, hey, we're glad you're excited. We're glad you're motivated. We're happy to take your experience, but we want to see proof in the pudding. So give us 3 standard 1-2 compliant reports that we can pick apart, hand to our reviewers, look at as a board and say, hey, do you understand what you're doing? Because the moment we give you that license or certification, we're giving you carte blanche to go out and do that work. We expect you to be able to perform it. We want to see it up front. That's a reasonable thing to ask. The appraisal subcommittee is comfortable with that approach for accepting 100% mass appraisal experience, but doing that standard 1-2, be it demo or actual client work, going in and doing that work product review prior to licensure as well. So again, short term, we're just trying to hold the fort as best we can. And I know Scott talked about the waivers and things. I would tell you, there is still a strong preference for appraisals underpinning mortgage lending in this country today. But the reason that there's so much clamor and so much chatter around the alternative pathways around to get solutions for collateral risk is because there's a real concern that we can't produce enough appraisers fast enough to meet demand. That's the long and short of it. And I know you go on the internet and some people say it's people not willing to work for what's on offer. And that's a different conversation for a different day. But in absolute numbers, we just don't have the people on hand that if we see a precipitous drop in mortgage rates, for example, we're not going to have the bodies on hand to be able to handle that workload that's going to come for us. And that's where those workarounds are going to become a lot more attractive. So in the short term, getting folks like assessors with a mass appraisal background into the profession more readily, again, with the education and exam under them as well. It's not like we're obviating all 3 legs of the stool. We're just trying to better leverage one of them. And then in the longer term, the AQB is going to give you new criteria to implement here in the not too distant future. Encourage you to engage with that process, but expect it to be significantly different. As Scott said, we'll probably see college education entirely eliminated from the criteria, and I would not be shocked to see experience entirely eliminated from the criteria. So it's going to be a new world we go into, and we encourage you to engage with that process because ultimately you're the end users of that work product of the AQB. With that, I'm going to stop, pause, and I guess see if we have any questions.
Sure. Well, thank you all for attending and being here. Couple questions. So with the mass appraisal, you had mentioned having the applicants provide a couple reports. What does that look like when the education requirement is no longer in place? I'm sorry, the experience requirement is no longer in place.
The experience requirement goes oh, sorry. That policy statement goes away as well. So that's going to be a big change as well. Now, I believe if the experience requirement goes away, that there'll still be the path that somebody can do the supervisor training thing. I think it'll be just one of the paths to get licensed. You can eliminate experience. You can still use the supervisor path. I don't have anything to do with the appraisal qualification board, nor do I direct their workload as a trustee, but I think you'll see a significant shift in how you're going to make sure people are qualified. Now, let me point this out. Remember, what the criteria is intending to do is make sure people meet the minimum qualifications. It has nothing to do with competency. Your job isn't to make sure people are competent to perform appraisal work. Competency comes at the assignment level. And so the criteria is just to make sure people meet the minimum criteria to become licensed. Once you turn them loose, they're not competent to do anything, any assignment other than the one you reviewed. The next assignment they get, they have to determine their own competency for that. So don't make sure you understand that you're not trying to make sure people are competent, just that they're qualified. And so what we don't want to do is tortiously interfere with people getting licensed. Our job as regulators is to make sure that we protect the public trust when they get a complaint filed against them, we address that. But we shouldn't be trying to stand in the way of people getting in the profession. So I would think that would go away, that requirement to review the work product.
One other question. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Wasn't there a state that has adopted some sort of licensing under the appraisal regulation for data collectors?
No,
No, there's
I'm going to
nothing.
let Scott answer that because he tracks that. I'll let him answer that for you.
There have been a couple of states where it's been proposed, but no states have enacted it. And there was a discussion in South Dakota, a bill hearing, and it was actually defeated. And here's why. First of all, property data collections are a very small number of the overall universe of loans that are eligible for sale to the GSEs. It's something less than 1%. That involve a property data collection. That number obviously could change as a result of the president's executive order and the ramping up of appraisal waivers and the coupling of waivers with property data collections. So it's something that we definitely need to keep an eye on. And the other reason why I'm not a big fan of it, to tell you, of licensing property data collectors or property data collection companies, and here's why. Once you exempt out all of the workforces that are currently providing property data collections that have a state-issued license, mainly the brokers and salespeople, but also home inspectors. I don't know if home inspectors are licensed here in Tennessee or not, but home inspectors, insurance inspectors, and a couple of other licensed entities. Once you exempt them out from the requirements for property data, for licensing of property data collectors, you're talking about a very, very small universe of individuals that would have to be separately licensed as property data collectors. The estimate in South Dakota was less than 20. And it obviously is just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze there. And I can't envision any state that's going to stand up a new occupational licensing program for so few people. The same is true on the property data collection company side. Most of the property data collection companies, there's about 64 or 65 of them that are approved providers by the GSEs. And all but about 10 of them are appraisal management companies and are licensed or registered by the state to provide those services. They would obviously want to be exempt from the property data collection company registration requirements as well. And now you're left with 10 entities that would have to be licensed as those companies. And again, I don't envision any state standing up a regulatory program for so few entities.
Sorry, one more question too.
Sure.
Do you have any sort of timeline of when the perceived experience requirement could be eliminated? I mean, as you know, changing laws in the state is a slow process and a lot of work. And so if we go through this process and a year and a half down the line, that's eliminated, does it make sense?
Right. Yeah, that's really hard to judge. I think the directive could come pretty soon, maybe within the next 60 to 120 days from the White House. And again, the AQB is under no compulsion to do anything with the experience requirement. But I'll reiterate, I think they'd be hard pressed not to. Probably the directive, then the AQB would go through the exposure draft process. I think they would use an expedited process. They have some pressure being put on them right now with the current exposure draft. They said, "Oh, well, we'll have a second exposure draft before the end of the year," and everybody started screaming at them that no, that's not good enough. You need to have a second exposure draft like right now. Last I heard was sometime in late May, we may see another exposure draft on the criteria. And I think they would use a similar expedited process if they were directed to eliminate the experience requirement entirely. And you bring up a great point, Mr. Chair, which is that then the process has to start at the states, changing laws, changing rules, and that's not a quick process. It's very lengthy, and even more importantly, I'm of the opinion that even if the AQB gets rid of the experience requirement, there will be some states that don't eliminate it. And that's going to create all kinds of challenges, because, especially with reciprocity, because you're going to have people taking the path of least resistance and going to a state that doesn't have it, and then coming in to a state via reciprocity, a state that has the experience requirement. And I'm not sure exactly how states are going to deal with that. The same is true on the valuation bias and fair housing laws and regulations class. Even if the AQB removes that, there are states that will keep it in place. And it's just going to cause all the industry is fragmented enough, and licensing and regulation is fragmented enough, but this is just going to, make that problem exponentially, much more difficult. So, but I think you're probably looking at 4 or 5 years before the experience requirement would be eliminated entirely, and the legal process that states have to follow would have culminated.
Scott, thanks for your comments and coming here today. I wanted to clarify just one thing real quick. You think you're referencing the Tennessee statutes, and then we have a 24-month requirement that you have to be a trainee under the traditional, I guess, path. And then you said that our hourly, they somewhat conflict.
That's how I read it. The statute seems to indicate that you have to have 2 years of experience working with a trainee, and then the rules actually incorporate what is in the real property appraiser qualification criteria for LR, 1,000 hours in 6 months, CR, 1,500 hours in 12, soon to be 9 months, and then 3,000 hours in 18 months for certified general. That's all good. That's in the rules. I'm just not sure. I do see a conflict there, and somebody could come in and say, at some point say, unless you change the statute, you have to require appraisers to have 2 full years of experience, even though the AQB doesn't require that.
Which states just straight up just only require an hourly? I mean, I'm sure there's several states, but are we unique in the fact that we have a 24-month and an hourly?
No, that's required by the AQB. Oh, you are unique in the 24 months. There's one other state that requires 2 years. Actually, 2 other states, New York and Nevada. And Nevada's in the process of changing it. But the AQB does require that 1,000 hours in no less than 6 months, 1,500 hours in no less than 12 months, and 3,000 hours in no less than 18 months. So that's not unique by any by any stretch.
Glenn, do you know if we standardize, the states have standardized how many hours can be a trainee can say, hey, I've spent 30 hours on this mixed use property? Do we standardize that, or can they just put an hourly number on there, whatever they feel is appropriate?
Yeah, they fill out their logs too, and then Will can tell you about the intricacies of that. But we do adopt the 6, 12, and 18. And so I haven't obviously I don't got a lot of boards, so I don't recall the trainee statute, but we do have a licensing statute that does acknowledge AQB, hence the 6, 12, and 18 in the rules. So we function in accordance with AQB in that regard. But and it's something that of course I'll be in touch with the state harmonization task force as well as, because some of those overlays may not be functional, sort of like in excess of AQB, but it gives us an opportunity, at least a starting point, a reference point for us to discuss. And some of the work that they've done, they can identify what they believe where those overlays are, and then we can enter in that discussion with them. So this is just really kind of an orientation for us, us building that relationship together as well. But yeah, Will, did you have something you want to say?
So we have no limits for any property type whatsoever. So as an example, for a single property, they can log whatever they want to. This is what Tennessee does. We do an in-person interview with them to verify their logs. And our commissioners typically have 20 to 30 years of experience in appraisals. And so you know whether or not during your discussion with the applicant, whether or not they've given a correct number. What we typically don't want to see is states that do have a table of maximum hours is magically all of the experience is exactly the same amount of hours, which that means they actually weren't logging the number of hours that they do. So we allow unlimited number of hours for that. And we do, as Glenn said, we allow 6 months of experience, 12 months of experience, and 18 months of experience. It's quite common for us on the very day that they achieve those 6, 12, and 18 months of experience that we get their upgrade application on that very day. That's quite common. For the CR appraiser, we accept all 6 types of college education. So we've licensed quite a few CR appraisers who were a licensed appraiser with no college whatsoever. We've licensed multiple appraisers in that situation. For Perea, we have licensed at least 2 Perea applicants, if not 3 within the past year. We just don't get very many of those applications. For foreign college, I believe in Tennessee, since the last 7 years, we've not had a single applicant who has had a foreign college education degree. So that's been basically not applicable to our board whatsoever. That would be very different for a board like architects and engineers, who that's be quite common. It's just not common at all with us. But the biggest impediment to any person getting an appraiser license, in my experience, is the experience hours, the requirements. Most people simply just do not, they just don't have the time to do the hours and stuff like that. I've always been under the impression that if they do eliminate the experience, just let people pass the test. And if they pass the test, they pass the test. But what I will tell you is I can typically tell from the applicants who will pass the interview with the commissioner before they've even been assigned to you, because typically the people who pass have a very organized set of logs, a very organized application, because those are the skills that you need to write an appraisal report when they come to you. And if it's a straight up mess when it comes to me, they're not going to do well in the interview, which probably means they can barely write an appraisal report. So, yeah, so I mean, as I said, I think we try to, as much as possible, use the standards given.
Thank you. And that's good to hear. Like I said, in practice, you may do things that are not enumerated specifically in the statutes or the rules, like allowing somebody to upgrade from LR to CR without that college level education. So that's good to hear.
That's helpful, and thanks for filling in. Even I was looking at the real property qualifications of AQB just recently when I approved an upgrade, and so yeah, that's we do adhere to that. Yep, sure do. So but there's still some work to do to kind of polish it out and some of the wording and clean up, if anything else. So yeah.
There was one area that hadn't been mentioned that we had a request about, and that was IRS employees that can't provide their work because it's classified.
That actually is addressed. That's actually addressed in the exposure draft that is available now. I can't remember exactly how it's addressed, but that's true as well. And it not just IRS, but also state departments of revenue with property tax appeal, mass appraisal type work, and DOT as well, because most states don't require DOT appraisers to be licensed or certified appraisers, but they're doing valuation work. And they would like to be able to use some of that experience towards licensing and certification as well. But because they don't have a supervisor and they can't be a trainee, it doesn't work very well. But specifically, the IRS issue is addressed in the exposure draft. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Like Pete said, this is going to be sort of an ongoing project for the foundation. So we'll likely be in touch with Glenn, with the commission as we move forward. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. We appreciate it. All right.
Chair, you want to take us off?
Yes.
We can keep going.
Okay, up next, has everybody had the chance to review the February 23rd meeting minutes? Need a motion to adopt or amend?
Motion to adopt the February minutes?
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second. We're ready for a roll call vote.
Yeah, thank you. See, I was getting rusty there. I'm glad you kept me on my toes. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, experience interviews. Pull that up myself. All right, I'm just gonna go down the list and just verify that what we have in front of us is current, accurate, and then we can just as a slate approve that slate. Mr. Haston, Matthew Roton, you recommended an upgrade for certified residential. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have anybody else that you'd like to add that, or was
I
that
do not.
complete? Okay, thank you. Mr. Mansfield, we just had one pending, or were you ready for that one or still waiting?
Yeah, not quite yet. I need
Okay.
to speak with Mr. Best about that.
That sounds fine. All right, so then we'll move on to Miss Mello. We got Laura Schott. That was an upgrade as well to residential. And your recommendation was yes, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you have anything else or is that complete?
Complete.
All right, thank you. And then Mr. Pratt, Corey McPherson, an upgrade as well to residential. And your recommendation was for an to approve that. Yeah, is that complete and accurate?
That is correct.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so our slate then are those three minus the one for Mansfield, because that was pending. So we still got some work to do on that one, and we'll have that for you next meeting. So we'll just need a motion in that regard.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Trying to get everybody. Okay, roll call then. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Looks like we're ready then for our education report. Dr. Mark.
One comment before we open this for a motion. I've been very, very impressed with the quality of our education providers. Honestly, I go through this material and it's like, darn, I wish I could take this class. I mean, I end up spending more time looking at the slides because many of them provide a copy of their presentation. So I find myself, wow, this is impressive, but I just want to make sure you know that if the material I have that I look through is any indication of the quality of the actual course that's being presented, I think we're doing a very good job training our people. So I'm open for a motion.
Well, and then Dr. Sunderman, if you want to make that motion, you can, and we'll just take a second there.
I move that we approve the Education Committee report.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Dr. Sunderman and a second from Mr. Dever. Okay, thank you. Get that. All right, roll call then. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello, Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And it is very robust. He does a lot of work. All of you do. I see those experience interviews and, sorting through that, but then also those applications are very robust. And so, and he has to get into those and this, there's a lot of work represented in those reviews. So thank you for your work in that regard. All right. So director's report then. All right. I'm pretty light today. So we've just got the budget report for you today. And that's informational purposes. There's nothing for us to vote on. Of course, entertaining questions that you may have. Per usual, I try to just cover the recent data, so we're not going over the entirety of it. So during our last meeting, we went over the months of record through November. As a result, we'll be focusing primarily on the last 3 months of record, December through February. And then as you know, per my habit, I try to pick out the stuff that you may see and try to anticipate where your eyes will be drawn and then just try to preempt and then hit those items. So a couple items I saw in February. There was under other in Edison expenses under February, there was an $80,000 charge there. That was due to ASC registry fees associated with AMC panel reporting. As you know, we're in panel reporting and Mr. Eric knows that well. And so that's that period that we're in. So January through the end of March. So we've wrapped that up, but then we still have some invoices floating through, and so some of those will be charged and then those go out. So that's what you're seeing there. That'll dry up probably in about another month. So you'll see a much smaller bucket there, but right now that's pretty typical. We see that every year. That's that. You also notice a sharp increase in revenue. Let's see, it was right under in technology and admin cost specs also in February. Smaller amount, roughly about $6,000, 5,957 or 56. A little bit further down the list there under technology. If you go across technology, that was a little bit of a spike there, so obviously I'm always looking at prior months and then year to date. So that one was a little bit of a spike. That was our share division costs associated with core cloud hosting services from January through the end of June, and with IT billing us for that work that month. And so that's why you're seeing that little jump there too. Other than that, I didn't see a huge spike. We'll probably be somewhat in a deficit for, it's pretty offsets. We may have one more deficit as we get a delayed invoice coming in, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get one more deficit in March, maybe in April, but we are running surplus for the year for 208,000. So we're looking really good. We're right on track to keep, we don't want to, put too much in the piggy bank in reserve. So we always have to watch that. But, typically I think the standard is like, I want to say 1.5 times, anything above that, we kind of want to find ways to peel that off a little bit, but we're watching it. We're in a good place. So other than that, I didn't see anything else that just jumped out at me unless someone else saw something that they want to discuss. And of course, conversation that stop here. If you have any questions about the budget at all, you can send me an email and then I can respond to that directly as well. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You highlight two main items, the large expenditure in terms of technology and the one for the, which one, the other one?
Yes, it's
Legal.
80,000, just about that's halfway
Are,
down.
are those, when you compare them to previous years, I mean, is this an unusually large, or does this happens, the fact that it's happens more once a year and this is when it hits us?
Yeah, it's that's the case. It's very much within the common standard practice or historical sort of what I've seen a trending or analysis over the last few years. But you forget when you get it well into the year, you're 6-7 months into, you kind of forget that. A good example is A&E. They do grants. And they do it same time every single year, February. You would think I'd remember this. And I pulled up the budget and saw a deficit of like $380,000. And, I clutched my pearls and gasped. And then I realized, oh, that's grants, because we do it every year. So it shouldn't surprise me, but it does when you haven't seen it in a few months, kind of get in the year and you forget, oh, yeah, it's grant time again. Same thing. AMC panel reporting, about the same. Yeah.
So nothing out of the ordinary other than the fact that it just looks bad.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like when you pay your mortgage or you go, whatever, it's a big dip right there or whatever. Maybe a big expense, you put in something onto the house,
Or
but
like
you
tax
anticipated
day.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, I didn't see anything outside the ordinary. And we get a lot of help with that too. We've got in-house accounting and we've got division accounting as well that assists with that. We got our budget officer and, fiscal has their own. So there's several layers and of folks that look at this, which I appreciate. That helps me. I'd hate for it, they'd be depending solely on my expertise. We'd all be in trouble. So anyway, all right. Next item is legal. So I guess it's up to you.
Good morning. Before I begin, I want to see if you wanted me to give a brief overview of each of the closures or if you had any particular questions.
As it relates to our committee meeting earlier, if you're not going to go over each individual one, could you at least state whether or not an expert reviewer performed a complete review of each one?
Yeah, I can go through each one. Just, is that all you guys want me to know, or do you want me to give you an overview of the complaint response as well? For the closures I'm referring to.
Yeah, I think we worked through them.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, number one is 2025-070511. In this, the complaint was a principal broker representing the seller of the property appraised. The complaint alleged that respondent produced a misleading report. The respondent provided their appraisal report and work file. I referred the matter to an expert reviewer who determined that the requirements of USPAP were met and did not observe any violations. Accordingly, I was recommending closure.
Yes, so my question is, did the reviewer perform a full review like we?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just couldn't tell from the dialogue.
Yeah, so if any of them say that I referred it to an expert reviewer for evaluation and they determined the requirements or whatever their findings were, that means that a full review was conducted.
Make a recommendation to close item 1.
Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Motion and a second. So ready for roll call?
Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston.
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right. We don't, yeah, we've only got like 4 mics, so if you're not speaking, just you have to turn off. Yeah, I don't know why we only allowed four mics. Apparently, we didn't get the elevated plan. I'm not sure how that works. But.
Number two is 2025-076421. In this, the complainant is the homeowner of the property appraised by the respondent. They allege that the respondent was negligent in completing the report. I referred the matter to expert reviewer. The expert determined that based on the totality of the information reviewed, there was no evidence of bias, lack of competency, or failure to comply with USPAP. Accordingly, counsel was recommending closure.
Make a motion to close item 2.
Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Motion and a second. Ready for roll call vote?
Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, we got one. All right. He's on a roll.
Number three is 2025-071431. In this, the complainant is the co-owner of the land appraised by the respondent. They allege respondent violated USPAP by using improper comparables and contend that the respondent fraudulently prepared the appraisal to undervalue the property. The respondent denied the allegations. I referred the matter to an expert reviewer for evaluation. The expert determined there was no basis to sustain any USPAP violations on behalf of the respondent, and in their review concluded that the respondent's appraisal complies with USPAP, reflects accepted appraisal methodology, and does not demonstrate bias, conflict of interest, or fraud. Therefore, counsel was recommending closure.
Motion to accept recommendation to close.
Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Nelson Pro.
All right, motion and a second. Ready for roll call vote?
Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
Number four is 2026-006-081. In this, the complainant is the owner of the property appraised by a respondent. The complaint is based on allegations of the respondent materially undervaluing the property. The complainant asserts that the respondent failed to properly inspect, analyze, or reconsider the appraisal. The respondent denied the allegations and provided their report. I referred the matter to an expert reviewer. The expert reviewer found on the information provided that they could not determine that respondent violated USPAP. Further, since the complaint is related to valuation, which is an issue outside of the commission's jurisdiction, counsel was recommending closure.
Question there. So it's saying that the respondent violated USPAP. I mean, don't typically most of the complaints are valuation based anyway, correct? But they go.
Yes, this complaint was their only sole allegation, and there was valuation. It was not providing any specific issues regarding USPAP. Typically, they say they point to specific USPAP violations. This complaint was based on they did not believe the value was the correct outcome. And had it reviewed as well anyhow, and they didn't find a use violation. So I was just including both informations in my recommendation.
Make a motion to close item 4.
Second.
Okay, just one comment before we vote, just to make sure. So you're saying that they did not find any USPAP violations, but then there's a list of,
Yes, so they just included that in their review of pertinent use regulations that refer to what was included in the complaint, but they did not find that there was evidence that the respondent violated those use regulations.
okay, sorry about that. I was
Oh,
confused there.
It's okay. Sorry, I should have clarified that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
All right, Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston.
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
Number 5 is 2026-010351. The complaint alleges that the respondent has been fraudulently advertising the complainant's appraiser training program as a respondent's work product. The respondent explains that they had previously had a professional relationship with the complainant and actively collaborated on practicum development and expansion efforts. The respondent advised that since receiving this complaint, they removed any advertisement or information on their website that could lead to confusion. This seems as like a contractual dispute, which is outside the jurisdiction of the commission. Accordingly, council was recommending closure.
Make a motion to close item 5.
Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Motion and a second. Ready for a vote?
Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
and Alex Bynum.
Yes.
Number 6 is 2026-002571. The complainant is the owner of the property appraised by a respondent. They allege a respondent relied on improper comparables during their appraisal. Specifically, the complainant states that despite the condition rating being changed from C3 to C2 after a reconsideration of value was submitted, the comparable utilized were not reconsidered. The response clarifies that the lender, rather than the complainant, was a respondent's client for the assignment, and that they provided their appraisal report and work file for review. I referred the matter to an expert reviewer. The reviewer determined that there was no material USPAP errors in the respondent's report that would affect the outcome of the assignment, and that upon review of all materials provided, the expert identified no issues rising to the level of a clear USPAP violation warranting disciplinary action. Accordingly, council was recommending closure.
Make a motion to close item 7.
Got a
I'm sorry,
motion-
6.
6, yes.
We've got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second. We're ready for roll call vote.
Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
Number 7 is 2026-004841. This complaint is related to a previous complaint which was presented during the February 23rd, 2026 commission meeting, which involved allegations that, and this, I'm referring to the previous complaint, involved allegations that an appraiser signed the certification section of a report without having physically inspected the property. This complaint was then filed following up for the appraiser who completed the physical inspections, but was not the one to sign the report. Sorry, it's a bit convoluted. I referred this for an expert reviewer who explained that there is no USPAP violation for the respondent merely performing the inspections or providing assistance with the appraisals. Rather, the expert indicated that only if the respondent knowingly allowed reports containing false certifications to be transmitted would they be in violation of the USPAP ethics rule. Based on that, I was recommending closing this with a letter of instruction regarding the requirements of USPAP's ethics rule, and letter of instructions are not reported.
There was some disciplinary action against the other.
Correct.
What was that? You remember?
It was a consent order, which we have another related complaint that got added, which I'm going to hand these out to you. It was a consent order for the 4-hour corrective education course scope of work, appraisals and inspections in the 4-hour corrective education course, ethics, competency, and negligence. And then this complaint is regarding the appraiser who physically went out, did the inspections, but did not sign the report.
So are you saying that there is a third complaint now for
Yes.
the same file?
Yes, but that one is against the same respondent as the previous one. That I got information on that following giving you guys a legal report. So that was going to be an addendum, which I'll hand out after we go through this.
How many times do we receive multiple complaints for one appraisal? Is it a recurring theme, or is it?
I wouldn't say it occurs a lot. This particular complainant was filing complaints against everyone involved, stating that they felt like they needed to as a mandatory reporting. So that's why there's multiple of them.
So the prior complaint was against the appraiser who
Signed the report without.
signed the report.
Correct.
And so this is for the appraiser who did not sign the report, but actually physically inspected the
Correct.
property.
Can you clarify that did the certification state that this person inspected but did not sign, or was it in there at all?
So it was not within the certification, which was the issue with the previous one, but it was included in the report that the other respondent submitted, saying somebody else went out and physically inspected the property, but they still signed the report, which was the previous issue that the expert found.
Was the person
Because they falsely certified that they.
was the person that inspected named, or just they said someone
No,
else?
they were named.
Okay.
And
so
that's how they got this information for this
individual-
respondent.
Yeah, and this individual in this complaint did not sign the report.
Correct.
Can I get clarification from you all? Would that be a standard practice of where you would know that you were going out to inspect a property and you know you didn't do the appraisal? So then somebody else would be signing, or did this person do the appraisal? I don't know. It just seems like that they did something wrong and knowingly knew that they did something wrong is my only question.
In the certification, you're required, the certification is a bullet points that you have to sign, and it's usually in the front part of the report, or it can be, anywhere. But there is a bullet point that says you did or did not inspect the property. And so you have to clarify that you did or did not inspect the property, that you don't have to inspect a property to perform an appraisal.
And so if we're assuming that this is some sort of secondary market transaction, the certification is pre-printed on that form, and it says that if you sign it, you did inspect it. Now, there is a supervisor signature section on that. So if you were the appraiser and had someone conduct the on-site inspection or observation, you could sign it as a supervisor and say that you did not inspect it. It sounds like in this case that the person signed the report. So this was our prior, did not inspect it and did not properly disclose that. So there is some pushbacks from lenders and AMCs about that, which is why appraisers sometimes do that. But yeah, I mean, it's a violation clearly. And so we, penalized the individual last time. This person didn't sign the report. So it's kind of a gray area.
Which is what the expert noted. It really hinges on if they knew the other appraiser was going to falsely certify that they inspected the property.
Oh, yeah,
So-
that was my
yeah.
question of is,
Mhm. And so we don't have determinative knowledge either way if they knew that this appraiser was going to go and falsely certify, which is why I was recommending the letter of instruction based on the ethics rule that was noted by the expert reviewer.
And does the new complaint that you're going to hand us have relevance to this complaint?
No, that is in reference to the previous respondent. It's a complaint with the same allegations and same respondent. And that respondent did sign the consent order and is taking the courses. So this one is just a recommendation for closure since it's the same issue. The one that's going to come to you guys.
Does anybody have any thoughts here?
The appraiser that did not sign the report, is he licensed?
Yes.
I mean, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation for item 7.
Got a motion on the floor? Further discussion?
I'm just going to ask.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
All right. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston.
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sonderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is number 8, which is 2025074121. In this, the complainant states they verbally hired the respondent to perform an appraisal on a piece of land owned by the complainant. The complainant alleged that the respondent failed to fulfill their agreement nor provide follow-up despite the complainant providing payment to the respondent. The respondent's son answered the complaint, informing counsel that the respondent was unable to provide a response as the respondent was recently admitted to the hospital unexpectedly. I want to point to the purpose of USPAP is to promote and maintain public trust in the appraisal practice, and that the USPAP ethics rule sets forth requirements for integrity and ethical conduct. Therefore, I was recommending issuing a letter of warning to the respondent regarding the USPAP ethics rules, as the respondent did not provide the complainant with a complete appraisal report despite receiving payment. This is an issue that came up previously at a meeting about a year ago, which the commission was hesitant in assessing any civil penalties or courses for this same issue, which is why I was going with a letter of warning, but I'm open to discussion.
So previously, we recommended a letter of warning in this type of situation.
Previously, you guys went with closure, but I just wanted to include in there that it's my opinion that USPAP and the ethics rules set forth requirements for them to be maintaining public trust, and they were paid and not provide product that they were paid for. So it's my opinion that it violated the ethic rules, which is why I was going with a letter of warning, but I'm open to the opinion of the commission.
Do we know if they paid back the money?
No, we do not have information on that.
In the prior circumstance, was it the same set of facts that an appraisal was paid for and not submitted?
It was similar, yes. But at that point, we hadn't discussed the ethics rule and how it regards to this issue, which is something that while I was writing this report, I felt was pertinent, which is why I included it in this with my new recommendation.
And just so we're clear, so you're not talking about the 2024 letter of instruction regarding for failure to respond. You're talking about different.
No, I'm sorry. The previous complaint I was referring to was not for the same respondent. It was just the same issue.
What about this 2024 letter of instruction? It says failure to respond.
Yeah, they failed to answer a complaint.
So this is 2 different complaints they haven't responded to.
This complaint, though, their son did provide a response letting us know that they were not answering the complaint because they were in the hospital. The previous complaint, yeah, they did not provide a response to, that 2024 one.
This seems related, but is the business, is there only one licensed appraiser in this person's business, or do they have other staff or other appraisers? Do we know?
I do not know the answer to that question. I'm not sure if Will can. It's not linked like that in core.
We do not track business affiliations of appraisers. You may have it listed, but that's solely for the purposes of the United States Postal Service.
Nelson Pratt, if we gotten any other information from the son relative to if the person is still practicing or if they're, back to operations or any further update?
No, I reached out recently, but had not received a response on that yet. But their email letting us know that they were in the hospital was not too long ago.
So how long ago do you think?
I'll pull up the email. One second, I just need to type in the complaint number. Sorry, they're by names in here.
While you're looking that up, I'm curious, since it says that the complainant indicated that they verbally hired the person, did the son of the respondent, did they admit that they received payment and never provided anything? I'm just curious.
No, the son just let us know that their father was in the hospital and that at that point, when she was released, he would provide a response. The last communication we had with them was in March.
Got it.
Their license is still active, though.
If I recall on the last, it it was some sort of competency, or they said that they weren't going to do it for a reason and didn't move forward. But it sounds like this is a little bit different. So they did enter into some sort of an agreement.
We've had both those issues prior, both an issue like this and then a competency issue as well.
Okay, and then accepted payment, which, you know, I feel like is a little different. And our position in the past was that that was just a business decision that
Yes,
that individual
yeah.
had made. And so, but this is seems a little bit different.
Yes, which is why I was still recommend a letter of warning despite previous one being closure.
Do we have any ability to ask them to return or to refund since they didn't provide a product? I mean, is that possible?
We can't require them to, but I can include in if we went forward with a letter that the commission recommends refunding the customer.
Maybe like letter of instruction while this is pending, maybe not close it out, but ask for that. And then we revisit it next meeting. And if they've done it, then we close it. Is that possible?
I'm guessing that would be like a civil issue, but like these people don't want to take these people to court over that much money to spend all that issue. It just seems like a very unfair advantage that for them to take the money and then not provide the product.
Yeah.
I was going to recommend that and this is not a motion, but I would sort of like to hear from the respondent and allow him time for us to hear exactly his side of the story. Especially, I really don't like the fact that he did not respond, or she did not respond. I guess he did not respond in 2024. So I would like there to be a little heat felt to require them to actually respond in this case.
We can defer it to the next report to see if I can obtain a response and go from there if I do receive a response.
I have another question. Maybe I'm missing something. What communication do we have with the person, the complainant? In terms of, obviously, when this was initially filed, they had paid the money but had not had the report. But how long ago was that provided? I mean, has anything happened since then, or?
They filed a report on January 26, 2026, and I have not received any further information from the complainant since that date.
I guess my concern is, obviously, when you said you heard from the respondent's son, I think you said in March. Now, granted, he may be in the hospital now in March, but what happened between when he took the money in October and March? Has he been sick in the hospital that whole time period? Or, I mean, I guess I feel like we have a lot of missing information in what really happened, or has this all been resolved? I mean, has the report been done?
I have not received information on that from the complainant or the respondent.
Whether the respondent was contacted and said, look, I'm sorry, I'm in the hospital, da-da-da. You know, so I guess I'm just concerned with, do we have up-to-date information, what's really happened?
The only thing I would say about that is, of course, we can reach out with whatever questions, and I suspect legal's already probably done a pretty good job about that, knowing their quality of work. But obviously with the if there's some sort of mitigating circumstance that would keep them from giving a full response, we could give them, certainly, it sounds like that's what the commission maybe leaning, give them the benefit of the doubt and give them that extra time. And then however, but sometimes folks don't respond deliberately because they're afraid of like maybe exposure or whatever. So sometimes there's reasons for that. And then the best way to get them to respond just from a strategy standpoint is to put discipline in front of them. It's kind of like, because then that forces the issue, then that gets them sort of in a, and I'm not saying we're going to necessarily agreed citation, but I'm just preparing for the next meeting that it's very possible that we don't get the response or the extra information that we want. And at that point, we just have to operate with what we have and, in good faith. And then sometimes, like I told our architects and engineers, we send them the agreed citation, and then we get the response that we're looking for, because then they realize, oh, I've got to do something with this. And so and then that sometimes can, even depending on how egregious the issue is, can we can enter into negotiations, and then they sort of send a counter offer. Sometimes they'll even, maybe meet with a representation. So then it kind of loosens them up a little bit because they realize I've got that protection I need. It's escalated to that point. And so sometimes that's deliberate. We're waiting on a response that may not be coming until we send the letter or the agreed citation.
Yeah, I personally think that we table it, try to reach out, get some more up-to-date information. And if they don't respond, I mean, we're going to have to just, make some assumptions here. But I think that, yeah, we reach back out and see. We don't need to vote on that, do we?
Yeah,
yes,
you will to refer it.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the form of a motion then.
Second.
All right. Got a motion from Mr. Mansfield, second from Mr. Haston, then roll call vote then Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Number 9 is 2025073931. This is a very similar issue. The complainant was the prospective purchaser of a property that was to be appraised by the respondent. However, the complainant alleges that although the complainant provided payment, the respondent failed to complete the appraisal. The respondent also failed to provide an answer to the complaint. Therefore, I was recommending issuing a letter of warning to the respondent regarding the use PAP ethics rules and Tennessee Code annotated 6239-332C, which requires the respondent to answer the commission. But I'm not sure where we want to go in the discussion based on what we just did with the previous one.
I think we have an obligation to protect the public, and that is, to me, very concerning that number one, you did not complete the appraisal, and then you don't respond. So is there a problem with the person? And how do we handle that as a commission to get a hold of those people? There's got to be somebody.
And letter of warnings are reported. Just want to get that information.
I think it's significant too that the person was only licensed in June of 25. So they haven't even been an appraiser for a year and they've already gotten a complaint.
And re-highlight what council said. Letter of warning does go on the registry if they're licensed. So that's a little bit different ballgame than maybe some of our other boards where letter of warning is treated just like sort of a naughty letter. It's because insurance purposes, all of that would be affected. So it's got a little bit more gravitas with the letters of warning than the letter of instruction. So just keep that in mind. It's not like it's nothing. If you do send a letter of warning. I'm not recommending that's what you do. Obviously, that's among you to decide, but it does carry some weight. Yeah.
I feel like there should be a fine.
You mean a civil penalty?
I feel like there should be a civil penalty. I absolutely do not mean a fine.
And I don't disagree with you. The very prior complaint, we sent this back out to get some more information. So that's what I was kind of saying, that is if we give them a chance to respond, maybe there is an answer. And if not, we're going to assume the worst there. But
I agree with Brad. I feel like the facts are, even though they're a little different, like they're similar enough to the prior situation, and maybe we treat them the same just from a precedent standpoint.
Yeah, I agree.
I would just ask the commission if they didn't respond, what is staff going to do that's going to be different to get a response? Or and I'm not saying I'm not putting that on staff. I'm saying is there anything that you all can do that's different than how y'all currently tried to get a hold
We
of somebody?
can send an investigator out to try to get a response, but that comes at the cost of the.
Yeah, that seems
commission.
awfully, yeah.
Which is, as Glenn noted, a letter of warning. Sometimes when they receive that, it does register as something that's going on that may prompt a response, but
But once the letter of warning is issued.
the
it's
case
been
is
issued.
closed. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like keeping it open keeps an option like Alex's open for the next meeting. If there is some other set of circumstances, that's why I would lean towards the deferral until we have a little bit better information. And then we either, letter of warning or letter of instruction and close it, or something more severe if the facts justify that.
I agree. I mean, I would be on board with some sort of civil penalty if the second attempt was not addressed by the respondent.
Is there any way, any cheap way of determining if this business is even still active?
Yeah, I was thinking we send Chair Mansfield out there to take a look, you know.
Other than, I guess the fact that the first licensed, you know, in 6 of 25, and the complaint came out as of the beginning of 26. I mean, that this person may have, I'm not saying was scamming this person, but I wonder if they're even there anymore. I mean, you know, what's really going on? It's not like the previous case where someone has been licensed for quite a few years and obviously has been in practice, has been doing this stuff. I just wonder if he's not responding or she's not responding, are they even there?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown, and obviously, if we go down that track, then that would be outside of our jurisdiction probably anyway. That's going to be criminal court or civil
Yeah.
court or all the rest. And so right now it's based on the statute in front of us, the scope, of professional licensure. You're going to be somewhat limited, and so we're looking at use PAP and like a laser. But yeah, so it sounds like we were moving towards doing like the one prior to that so we just need a motion in that regard, if that's where the board wants to go there.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we try to reach back out, give the individual one more opportunity to respond and then to defer this to the next meeting.
Second.
All right, roll call vote then. Brett Mansfield,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston,
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Looks like we're ready for number 10 then. Yeah.
Sorry, just trying to get that correct paper up. Okay, number 10 is 2026-008-421. In this, the complainant explains that the respondent was contracted by the complainant's lender and company to perform an appraisal. The complainant alleges that advises that the appraisal included comparables which were purchased as a portfolio or as a package purchase for multiple properties. According to the complaint, the issue is that the report did not adequately explain how the individual sale prices were allocated. I referred this to an expert reviewer. The expert found that the respondent's explanation included an analysis of the transactions. However, it did not fully address whether a thorough evaluation was developed and presented. Accordingly, the available information to the expert, they found it may reflect a potential deficiency in the level of analysis, and they pointed to certain use PAP standard rules. Based on the findings of the expert reviewer, I was recommending issuing a letter of warning regarding the aforementioned use PAP regulations. And this is just based on the expert not fully determining that there was a violation, just that the analysis may not have been as thorough as required.
Do we know if the subject property or properties was also a portfolio or a group of properties?
I can pull up the complaint and see if it mentions it. It looks like it was just on one property.
Not a motion yet, but would lean towards letter of instruction to educate. Not everybody may really know much about portfolio sales and transactions. Maybe it was an honest mistake. Maybe didn't see it. I don't know, but maybe use it as an opportunity to educate that person to look for that next time.
What was the letter of warning in 2013?
Yeah, so we don't have a copy of it due to its age, but I pulled up and saved the very bare description that they gave. I'll read it to you. It says the complaint was filed by a fellow practitioner, included allegations that the respondent went to a superior city to get comparable sales and accurately reported the market conditions and values of the neighborhood. We don't have a copy of the report.
So on the corrective education, which was included here, thank you all for doing that. There's a missing explanations class, 4 hours. You know, it seems like that's could be applicable if we wanted to go down that road. There's also couple other good ones there, but open for further discussion.
So are we saying including a letter of instruction and then requiring missing explanations?
So if we require a course, it has to be a consent order.
Is this egregious? I always feel like I'm being the bad guy. I want y'all to know that. But I'm just.
Look at you that way.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I say that is that would you, if you had a fellow practitioner that was doing that in your office, would you look at that as being egregious, what they've done?
You would, if I were reviewing someone's work in my office and they had taken, say, a $1 million portfolio and just divided it by 10 and said each house is worth $100,000, I would say there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and that's the wrong way to do it. And you need to, perform interviews and actually dig down and get to the answer. So we don't know. We don't have all the facts. We don't know what happened. It could be. That's why there's, I think, an education opportunity.
Also says, standard rule 21B, which, requires the appraisal report to contain sufficient information to enable the intended user of the report to understand the property properly. So, it does seem like there's a violation there. We don't have a lot of information about what was included in the report, but that is the reviewer's conclusion.
It could have been lazy, and lazy is as bad as anything in some cases.
I always try to bring that up. I'm not always the guy that's like, oh, it's all about money. I'm just saying there is a cost to do that you have associated with these findings. And that when people break the rules, just like if you're speeding, a civil penalty being levied does make sense to try to at least try to understand that, there is a cost associated for these findings.
One thing too, we don't know where they got their data. Obviously a portfolio sale would not probably be in the MLS. And this person is certified residential, so they're probably doing a residential appraisal. So you just wonder about where they got that and why they use that rather than something different.
And then it can be multiplied across things if they do it incorrectly to begin with, or maybe they did before. It's going to perpetuate and cause bigger problems.
Anybody like to put a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we require the missing explanations class, I guess, and that's a consent order, technically.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
You need a second?
We would need a second.
Okay, second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
All right, roll call vote then. Brett Mansfeld,
Yes.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston, Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum. All right. Thank you very much. Just passed by majority then, not unanimous, but nonetheless, it passes.
And Anna is passing out the additional complaint that I had mentioned earlier. Can I have one of those? Okay. This is for an additional complaint that was added. It is complaint number 2026-004-831. As I had mentioned earlier, this complaint is related to the previous complaint that was presented during the February 23rd, 2026 commission meeting, which involved allegations that the respondent signed certification section of the report without physically inspecting the property. This complaint regarded the same allegations and the same respondent. The respondent has signed the consent order requiring the 4-hour corrective education course scope of work and corrective education course ethics, competency, and negligence, and it's agreed to complete the required courses. I was recommending closure since this is a complaint based on the same allegations.
Just so I understand, the complainant is the same complainant and it is revolving the same complaint
Correct.
that we addressed in February.
Yes. They had, yes, they filed based on the work that they had completed with the respondent. And so they filed multiple complaints. But it's for the same issue, same respondent, same complainant, and they signed the consent order and they're completing the courses.
I make a motion to close this item.
Second.
Brett Mansfeld,
No.
Taylor Van Dever,
Yes.
Will Haston.
Yes.
Nelson Pratt,
Yes.
Francie Mello,
Yes.
Sandra Tuck,
Yes.
Dr. Mark Sunderman,
Yes.
Eric Robinson,
Yes.
Alex Bynum.
Yes.
All right, that passed by majority, but not unanimous vote.
That's it for the legal report. Anna, pass it over to you.
I have two brief announcements. So I heard that the General Assembly is finishing this week prayerfully. So that means in July, we will have a legislative update. There aren't too many statutory changes I think that will impact this board. A lot of the bills got placed behind the budget this year. So there's nothing I'm too concerned about. And then the second one is you'll probably hear from us either in July or later in the coming months, more additional information about ADA requirements that we're required to adhere to. So what that's going to look like is an additional presentation. We're going to have to do essentially more robust version of Robert's rules so we can make sure that the individuals that our meetings are accessible. So that's coming down in the pipeline. You guys got the cutoff. You were the meeting right before presentations were going to be mandated, but we did get a notification that the requirements that were going to be due on Friday have been extended until 2027. So I just want to let you know what's coming up on the horizon. And that's it.
Thank you, Anna. Looks like then we are ready to move to the committee report. And I'll just defer there to the chair. Of course, that the committee on expert reviews, as you know, met this morning at 9 o'clock, and Taylor Van Dever, Will Haston, and Nelson Pratt, they were the ones that composed that meeting. And then Mr. Van Dever will give you the summary, just of kind of high level what they discussed.
As you see in your documents, we were provided the key organizational structure, example review form 2025, appraisal review framework and content requirements, and then review theory, a general flow chart to look over that were provided by members outside of this board. We discussed those in general, and we discussed the current complaint review process with legal in depth. And no voting items, no action items, but what we are trying to accomplish before the next meeting is to consider a potential fee structure difference, I think, than what's currently out there. The example review form that's provided is currently a template option that we are considering. Legal informed us that there's basically two reviewers that do most of the work and that they use their own templates. They're both different. We asked them to provide a redacted version or redacted copy of each of those templates to consider also, because those are currently being used. We also are considering adding additional information such as the fee and the template in the RFP process. And we've also requested that they provide feedback from the current reviewers or the current expert reviewers that they engage to see, what makes them want to review, why they continue to do it. So I think one of the issues that they've brought to our attention is a shortfall in number of experienced reviewers. And I think from most of the appraisal perspective, that is the reason that we're here is they're looking for a more standardized process. So I want to take all that into consideration moving forward, and we'll consider those things at our next meeting, which I guess, is that going to be an hour before our next meeting, or is there?
Yes, sir. As the chair, you can convene that. So if you feel that you would have sufficient enough information to have that committee, then certainly you can say that right now, and we'll 9 o'clock in July.
Yeah, I suggest that we keep this on the agenda moving forward, and let's reach some finality. It's been going on for a long time, so let's meet the next time if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll put you on there.
Can I make a?
Yes, ma'am.
I have done reviews in the past. It was probably 10 or 15 years ago when Nicole Avers was here. One of the things that I found very difficult about doing the reviews is that I was sent appraisal reports with people complaining about values for areas that I don't work in, such as I remember I got one up in Greene County, which the comparables were all 3 different acreage properties. And I don't go see those properties. I only see what's on the paper. And I also don't have access to the MLSs in those areas. And I feel like that's very much of a key, that you need to make sure whether we coordinate with the MLS people, that if we call and ask for a printout of these particular sales, that we can have that. Because it's hard to look at something where you don't know the area and you don't have any data except what's in the report, and then make a judgment if it was right or wrong.
And I saw Chair Van Dever was writing, I suspect probably something along those lines, but it was, as you look at your review sheet, you'll probably have to, they'll have that discussion. And obviously anything that you think the committee, and that goes for the entire board, that you think the committee could benefit from information, or, that you have from your own experiences or otherwise that you would like to share with the committee, then send that to me, and then I can forward that to the chair, and then, out to the rest of the committee as well. And then those are things they consider as they, they continue to do their review and report back to the board as they did just here today.
Yeah, I think Sandy's issue is related to the whole process that we're talking about here. There's not enough reviewers, and we're thinking maybe that they're not motivated by the fee structure. So we're trying to essentially recruit more reviewers that would have a more widespread geographical competency that would maybe satisfy several of these issues, and also the appraisal profession, you wanting to standardize. I think all of those are related. One of the questions that they posed to us, and we answered it individually just based on our own knowledge and experience, is what would be a fee structure that would motivate additional expert reviewers to join the panel, or to accept an assignment or accept a contract, I guess, in their words. So if any of you on the board have any input to that, we're open to listening. I think kind of the general range of fees that we were told has been paid in the past is like $600 per residential and several $100s more for a commercial. And we all agreed that in this day and age, that's not sufficient money to motivate someone that's got a business and that is operating, under a certain level of efficiency, and they get one of these types of assignments that's completely outside the box what they're normally tasked to do. So what is the financial motivation to a private practice appraiser to accept the assignment? So if anybody has any feedback to share, publicly, then happy to hear that.
And thank you for sharing that. And the committee did mention advertising and communication to the greater industry. And one opportunity for that is outreach. That's where our associations are going to be very instrumental, because there's a self-interest just for the industry to have really quality, good appraisers and a whole host of them doing this type of work, and to be able to have a deep bench. And so if you're aware of any of those outreach opportunities, or you think there's some way that the board, myself or others can take advantage of those as they exist in your prospective areas throughout the state, just let me know. Send me a quick tag on the email, and then we can sort of discuss what we can do to leverage that and take advantage of those as you become aware of those. So I appreciate that. Oh, did you have anything else to add, Chair?
That concludes the committee report.
Thank you, sir. All right, new business then. Does the board have any new business? All right, hearing none, we can move on to public comment. Do we have anyone signed in? Okay. We don't have anyone either on the podium here. So I think, Chair, it's up to you then if you want to adjourn, if you want to gavel us out.
Can I make a quick comment before you
Yes.
adjourn? For anybody that didn't attend last week, the National Appraisal Institute Conference was in Nashville, and Tennessee was well represented. I would say very well represented there. There was a goal to raise money for the national PAC, and Randy Button led an effort that resulted in him getting an award. But the Tennessee chapter stepped up and performed at a very high level. Randy did a great job as well. And I also want to recognize Brett Mansfield. He was one of the speakers, did a fantastic job talking about other opportunities for residential appraisers and other types of work for residential appraisers to do other than just lending work. So a lot of very good representation of Tennessee at that conference.
Yeah, thank you for that update.
Excellent. Thank you, Taylor. All right. Well, that'll conclude our meeting.
All right.
Thank you all.